What are you having me do now? That's terrible. Okay. Tell me to read them.
Clerk, do a roll call.
Roll call. Counselor Capone.
Here.
Counselor DeFlorio. Counselor DePiero.
Here.
Counselor Hanlon.
Here.
Counselor Marchese.
Here.
Counselor Matusky. Counselor McKinnon.
Here.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor Napolitano.
Here.
Counselor Simonelli.
Here.
And President Della Sola.
Here.
11 members present. You do
Please
have a quorum.
stand, salute the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Can we just stand for one moment? For a moment of silence. We lost one of Everett's own, George McCarthy. He was Everett's mayor for 10 years, businessman in Everett, and they still are. So it's a sad moment and moment of silence. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, motion to open
Counselor-
public participation. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. President, we have 6 people here to speak on public participation. The first will be Kevin O'Donnell and Colleen Mejia.
Just please state your name and your department, please.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff, Mayor Carlo Di Maria.
Colleen Mejia, City Solicitor.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, distinguished council. We were just here tonight to speak on, ask for consideration on item 17 on the agenda. It was late this afternoon after 5 o'clock, through some diligent research by the City Solicitor's Office, that there is additional language that none of us were aware of that speaks to the administrative code in the library's Board of Trustees. I will let the city solicitor expound on it, but we want to make everyone aware of all the contributing factors of what we see behind the philosophy of our intentions, and so we would just ask that we have time to put it together and present it to the council so they could, each individual can do their own reading and research on the subject matter. But it basically would prohibit us, the language as driven by a will of which the libraries were left to us, would prohibit us from taking action on this item tonight.
Just in short, that there's language in a will for Mr. Parlin that makes reference to the Board of Trustees, so we'd like to just absorb that language and ask you to hold it over so we can kind of revamp the language in the admin code and then present the new code at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You can't ask questions.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Patty Cheever.
Just turn that mic on. There you go.
Technology.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually here tonight to also address item number 17, the changes to the administrative code, specifically the Library Board of Trustees. The previous speakers sort of throw that off a little bit. It's good to know, good to hear that there's additional language that they'll be submitting to all of you for consideration. The Board of Trustees, as you all know, plays a very important role in the management and operation of the library and the building itself. So without some public participation or some input from the trustees, it was very troubling to a lot of people that, that this change was being considered to be made. So since the city solicitor and the mayor's chief of staff is going to be submitting additional information to you, I think it's important for you all to understand there are some people here, I think there might be one or two others who would speak, that would be in opposition to that type of change without some sort of public hearing, without some sort of public input from both the public and the trustees themselves. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for your time.
The next speaker is Samantha Lambert.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, Chair.
Good evening.
My name is Samantha Lambert. I'm a resident of 20 Pierce Ave, as well as an active Board of Trustee member. Again, going after the city solicitor and chief of staff, it changes, but I would just like to read the statement that I had put together for you to consider as you're going through that new language and information. So I wanted to begin with the words that are likely familiar to every Everett student, past or present, that I would have all young persons taught to respect themselves, their citizenship, the rights of others, and all sacred things, to be healthy, industrious, persevering, provident, courteous, just and honest, neat in person and in habit, clean in thought and in speech, modest in manner, cheerful in spirit, and masters of themselves, faithful to every trust, loyal to every duty, magnanimous in judgment, generous in service, and sympathetic toward the needy and unfortunate. For these are not only the most important things in life, and this is not only the way of wisdom, happiness, and true success, but the way to make the most of themselves and to be of the greatest service to the world. These words are by Albert N. Parlin, as you know, and I suspect some of us may have written it more than others. But the gifts of the library from Mr. William Shute and Mr. Parlin are far more than buildings with books in them. Their gifts were contributions to the character of our cities, and I think our libraries, and the words of Mr. Parlin time and again as I fulfill my duties as a trustee. And if it's a consideration of budget, if it's the stipend, I would just like to call attention to that we were each appointed as in an unpaid position and neither asked nor expected pay, and I would gladly accept the honor again, as well as the responsibility. And I take it very seriously that libraries offer our city in times of need, recession, so much more than just a place of books. They offer a respite. They're neither liberal nor conservative. They are truly a place and a haven where people can find the information to form their own conclusions. So again, I just ask you to please consider input from the Board of Trustees, as well as those that partake of the library's resources, many of which are children and families that wouldn't always have access to some of the subscription services and some of the programming that we're able to offer, such as sensory story time for those with special needs and coding for those that are interested in more technology-based. So it goes far more than books. And I thank you for your time tonight and appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa Tufts.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of the residents of Garland Street, Fremont Ave, and Bellevue. We're having a problem with parking due to the employees that live in Everett and work at the hospital, parking in the neighborhoods and not parking in the garage or other designated areas, and even on all the shifts, mostly during the day, but in the evening as well, where that if we leave our parking spot, we come back, there's no place for us to park. So we're hoping we can maybe get a special placard for the residents of those 3 streets, so that even if you live in Everett and work at the hospital, you can't park in that neighborhood. We do have special parking right now. We have 24-hour resident parking only, but it's still not suffice with people that work in Everett, working at the hospital, parking in our areas, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you?
I'm just here for
Okay, just for support? All right.
Also, just to make sure that.
Christian is here also.
Yes,
From,
Christian.
he's
Hi.
the next speaker.
Good evening. So I'm Christian. I am the site administrator for the hospital. I
only
have
one
listened to the concerns of the neighbors over the last couple of years, and the challenges I think that they've struggled with. So I'm here tonight to support moving this forward, I guess, into the next steps.
Thank you.
Sorry, and the last speaker is Gurley Adrian.
Hi, everyone. Gurley Adrian, 12 Valley Street. So I wanted to speak on a few different matters for tonight. So first, I wanted to speak about term limits. So I'm in full support of term limits for both city council and on the mayor level. I wanted to speak about the board of the library trustees. As somebody who grew up in the library, who went to chess tournaments, who participated in different reading books, I really feel like we need to put full support in making sure that we keep the Board of Library Trustees. They are powerful advocates for our city, as well as making sure that the libraries are fully functioning for every child, every adult in our city. So I wouldn't want to see this type of change happening, especially like others have said, making sure that the public has an input about it. I also wanted to talk about commissions and boards. Something that has been troubling to me is the process. I know that there's a change in how the process is, and I really want to recommend that we have more people who actually live in the city of Everett actually be on these boards and commissions, and the actual process be fully transparent for anyone to actually apply, if they could apply like online, or actually see how each person is actually being put on this board or commission is something that is very important. I don't like the idea that people who can have a home here in Everett but who don't live here can actually have a say, for example, on planning or on traffic or on water. I think it's really important that the people who actually live in this city, who actually stay here, actually have a say. I have spoken about that I would love to be able to get on a board and commission, but I still haven't been able to been told what the process or how I could get on it. And I know that I'm qualified, I know I have a lot of skills, but somebody like me, I still can't get on it, and I don't think that's fair. And the last thing I wanted to speak on was about this quote-unquote lifetime appointment for the city clerk. I know other cities have it, supposedly, and that's where it's being mirrored upon. I think, again, this concept of lifetime appointment is very scary, and nothing against Sergio, because Sergio's a sweetheart to me. I just, again, fully transparent process that anybody who wants to be a part of the process can feel like they can be on it. And I feel like with a lifetime appointment, if somebody wants to be a city clerk, like I read about, Sergio said he wanted to be a city clerk since he was a kid. If I wanted to be a city clerk, I wouldn't be able to get on it if, for example, Sergio has this lifetime appointment, and that's not fair. So I'm just talking about fair and transparency, and that's all.
Thank you very much.
If there are no other speakers, I make a motion to close public participation.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, I was
All
gonna say-
opposed? The ayes have it.
Make a motion to take item 17.
All in favor?
Just because.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Yeah, I figured while they were here.
We'll take 17. Yep.
Item number 17 is an order offered by Councilor Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president, in order to amend the City of Everett Administrative Code.
Councilor DeFlorio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, as you can see, we have a lot of speakers here tonight that would like to be involved in this process. So we are going to postpone it for 2 weeks based on what the administration said, but we also wanted to postpone it for 2 weeks ourselves because we need a little more time. So because there's one item on that piece that everybody's interested in, why don't we just have a committee as a whole, schedule as a committee as a whole, and let everybody here know when the day is going to be so they can have input. So how do we do it where they can come up and have recommendations? You know, once the mayor comes up, the administration comes up, they explain everything to us, and everything is explained, do we continue with another meeting because people want to understand this item, and it's important to them. So how do we go in the process of doing that? Maybe the city clerk can
So
recommend.
if you're doing a committee of the whole, you're going to go to the committee of the whole. That is just a recommending body anyway. You cannot vote up or down there. You're referring it back out. So during the committee of the whole, you can ask the public to come up. There is no requirements.
that's what I'm
That is up to
saying.
the chairman and the members, and you're all the members. So you can allow the public to come up, discuss any of the amendments. If any of the public would like to know the amendments, they can always come and see me, because it's always on file in the city clerk's office, any amendments that are going to be proposed and made. And I think there was a question if it was posted in the paper. When it is going to be such large amendments, I am not required to post the whole thing in the newspaper, because it's a very large cost to the city. So because there are so many amendments, in the posting in the newspaper, it's stated on the bottom that a copy is in the city clerk's office. It's always on file with me, and it's open to the public at any point to come and get a copy of it. Most of the time, I have it just laying on the counter for public view.
But what I'm saying is, before we vote on this, so if we have it as a committee as a whole, the administration brings the language to us.
Yep, and you'll amend it.
Can the people come and ask questions at that point?
'Cause it's an open meeting.
So my recommendation is that we send this to a committee as a whole. And I don't know, advertise it in the paper. How do we let everybody know here unless they put their name and number on a piece of paper, and we'll call them? I have no problem calling them to let them know when the meeting is.
It's advertised, it'll be in the paper. Again, you can call my office if anybody's looking into it once it's posted. We don't know when it'll be posted yet. That'll be up to Mr. Burley. But it's posted online. All those meetings are online under the city clerk's title. That's where they are, so, I mean,
Committee of the whole?
and I'm sure we can just post in the newspaper also.
Mr.
That
Chairman,
works.
I think we have Mr. Clerk.
Yeah.
On a committee of a whole.
Yep.
Can the public participate?
I said yes.
Yes.
Any
Okay.
committee, a public, and you make that decision. Every meeting is a public meeting.
Right.
The public has the right as long as you allow them. You do not need public participation. That is different. If you feel the will of the public warrants it, you're allowed to invite them up and have them speak. I mean, you want to limit it usually so that, you don't have 100 people every meeting. You want to, like we do, we ask if there are 5 people in the same piece and they all came together, try to speak together on it. But yes, it's a public meeting. The public is allowed to speak.
Okay, so that's my motion, is to send it to a committee as a whole.
Before I get going, there was the motion, and no one seconded it yet. Just so you know, I have,
Chairman, I'd like to second that.
okay, I know there's other speakers, but we have 7 speakers right now on this white item. If we're going to send this, we're going to committee of a whole.
What's going.
I'm just going to recommend, you
That's what I want to
send it to committee of a whole, then save your questions for that night.
Just on that, just for clarification, if I could, is it just that particular piece that deals with libraries?
No,
or are we
the whole admin code.
The whole admin code?
You don't
Okay.
have the authority to divide that
Okay.
question.
So I'd like to amend that motion if I could, and I'd like to send it to a committee of the whole. I would like to ask the administration have reason and rationale for every single change that's being made, so that way we can fully understand exactly what the intent and the purpose of the changes are. So I'm wholeheartedly support having it go to committee of the whole, but I'd like the administration just to, instead of just addressing 1 or 2, I want to know the rationale and the reason for every change. I think we all need to know that so we can vote intelligently on it.
All right, so yours, all right, so send it to, dear Counselor. Send it to committee of a whole, and it was seconded. All right, you want to go on the line? Counsel Hand, you're up next to speak. You're done. Counsel McLaughlin.
Mr. President, I was going to ask that we also have the administration come up and give us a detailed understanding of the administrative code, not just line items, not just picking and choosing what they're going to talk about, but talk about the whole administrative code so that we understand if once and for all, from beginning to end. So I think Councilor Capone touched on my motion, and also Councilor DeFlorio did as well. My thought was, how can we invite the public to be part of this conversation? Because I think it's an important piece that a lot of people, I know personally, I must have got 6 or 7 phone calls this weekend, and I'm sure some of my colleagues did as well, from members of the Board of Trustees asking that we keep an open mind to the administrative code, because this one item was in the middle of the administrative code. What else could be in the administrative code that we're not aware of? So I support the comments of both my colleagues, and I hope that maybe as soon as next Monday evening, if we could get an answer whether or not next Monday evening would work for us to be able to hold this meeting. I think it's as time-sensitive as the subject is, that we do it as soon as possible, and I think next Monday night is available. I'd ask that we set a date tonight, right now, so that the people are in the audience know before they go home when this meeting is going to occur. So if we could look to see if next Monday night, April 1st, is available at 6 o'clock, or would be my recommendation.
Okay. Councilor Napolitano, did you want to speak?
Yes, I do. First of all, I agree with my colleagues that we need a presentation. When this was first rolled out to us 6 years ago, it was a full-blown presentation. We had all the details in front of us, and an explanation was given on why, and what was going on with this. And I don't see how this has changed any different. As an experienced, seasoned counselor, going over the current revisions for the administrative code, it's not easy to interpret. How does a regular person who is not used to this kind of language going to interpret it? I'd like to see a full presentation, and it should definitely be a separate meeting, with that being the one item. Now, here's the only other thing, though. The administration just told us during public participation they need 2 weeks to get certain details wired down. So why are we trying to push it for a week from now? That doesn't make sense. We're not complying with their request. And you know what? I want to know what's going on, but I also want to see a presentation. And they're not going to fix these these questions for us and do a presentation in a week. So I think that we're being a little short-sighted there. They've made a request based on their ability to be able to make the amendments. Let's honor that request. We don't need to have this next week just because it's our off week. We can have it any time. If we have it the week after, I'm fine with that. I'll come in on a Wednesday. I'll come in on a Tuesday. But the thing is, we do need to be able to get the details we need answered. And yes, we do need to let the public know when these things are going on. But they said they needed 2 weeks, and we're going to tell them, no, we want an answer next Monday. But we also want you to put a presentation together. And we also want you to be able to give us more detailed information than just a library. Let's be reasonable here. This is not something that is going to change the city foundations a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now. So let's make the change with some forethought. Give the powers that be the time they need to put a decent presentation together, also giving us the time to be able to notify the general public of when this is, so they can be up here to voice their concerns. Their concerns are very valid. That's why we're here. But let's not push it so fast because when you push it too fast, you give the impression you're shuffling something under the rug, and that is not the intent from anybody in this council. But let's not give that perception accidentally. My motion is that we hold this. We set up a committee of the whole, as Councilman DeFlorio recommends. We request a formal presentation on all facets of the change, so we clearly understand that, and we give them 2 weeks to come up here and produce that, which gives us time to be able to advertise it through either ECTV, or we even have in our budget, we can put an ad in the paper. We let the public know so they can be a part of that. That's my support, and I'll second the motions by my colleagues.
Thank you. Last speaker is Councilor McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we have Colleen here before us, please?
Second.
Not the changes. It's being revised.
I didn't say a date, I just said a committee as a whole.
Everything in red.
They can make the...
Because I know they need time to.
Good
Councilor
evening, Mr.
McKinnon.
Mejia.
Say that again?
Good evening, Mr.
Good
Mejia.
evening.
What time frame would you need to actually have this complete for us so that we would have it for our perusal, all the colleagues here, and then to give you time to actually have a presentation?
For a presentation, I don't see it being able to be done correctly and in depth the way you're requesting by next Monday.
Okay. So what time frame would you need?
I would say 2 weeks. I mean, I think the extra
2 weeks
week
is
would
ample?
be-
And then when would we get it as, like a hard copy?
Probably that Thursday before.
Okay. All right. Does that work? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Capone.
Just to the point of the date, I think that everyone's on the same page, which is good. I think our next meeting is the 8th, but rather than jam something that big in our regular meeting, I'd recommend we do the 15th if it's available.
15th's a holiday.
16th. So,
16th is Ways and Means? We could do
Correct.
well, whatever we end up finding for a date, I'd like to do a date other than our regular meeting.
Correct. There's
Because I
no
think it's
rush
going to
on
be
this.
involved, yeah.
Correct.
Is John in the back?
So,
Ask him what date, so we can have a date, please. We're going to,
if it's possible to do
Yes.
one tonight, that'd be great, because there are people here.
People
and
here
they
don't
would
know. And we're still going to advertise it, even though
Dick, we're asking our clerk of committees now. Just let them know when we'll come up.
we're just getting information from our clerk in the back in 1 minute. All right, councilors, we need a date. We'll advertise it. We're trying to come up with a date, 'cause we have holidays coming up. All right, we're gonna put an ad in the paper and on TV, the date of this meeting. All right. The date will be determined. We have a motion on the floor. For the committee of a whole, date to be determined. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take item, I believe it's 26,
Yes, it is.
regarding the hospital area. Thank you.
Item number 26, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilors Stephen Simonelli and Wayne Matusky that the Traffic Commission consider developing a new resident parking sticker for residents that live on Garland Street, Fremont Ave, Bellevue Street, and other surrounding streets near the Whidden Hospital as requested by area residents.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to add Councilman Marchese and McKinnon to this piece. Thank you very much.
Okay.
As was discussed in the public participation earlier, there was several residents here who were very concerned that their driveways are being blocked. We even have an administrator here, Mr. Christian, who was here, who actually spoke to Sergeant Gaff, who was the head of our traffic commission in the city. And Ms. Joanne Gregory is also here from the parking clerk's office. The issue at hand, Mr. President, is the parking in that neighborhood. It's a very nice area. We realize the hospital is there, but we've got to work together. They have meetings actually inside of the hospital, so the hospital is willing to work with the neighborhood. So we as a city council don't make the laws regarding these issues. We can suggest, which is what this resolution does do. to give some relief to the homeowners who actually live there. You know, I have a lot of respect for nurses and so forth, but they've got to use the garage. It's my understanding it's $1 a day to park in there. There's plenty of parking spots in there. As a matter of fact, I've been to that hospital to visit several people over the years, and it's a ghost town inside of there. I don't think many people use it. But needless to say, these residents are concerned. The hospital is actually willing to work with the city to develop some kind of a permit. As we discussed with the casino issue, which is going to impact certain neighborhoods in the city, this is the same issue really on a smaller level. The hospital is the issue, not the casino. So needless to say, I want to thank the Councilman Simonelli, who is the councilman from Ward 2, and my co-sponsors for actually helping with this. And I have discussed this matter, Mr. President, with the Traffic Commission Chairman, Sergeant Gaff. He understands the issues, and he's willing to work with the neighborhoods and the hospital people, the administrator. So with that, I'd like to refer this to the Traffic Commission, as amended.
On the motion, Council McLaughlin.
I'm okay. I was going to ask Sergeant Gaff while he was in the audience if he could come up for one quick question, if I could make a motion for that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Sure, we all know who you are, but just state your name for the record.
Sergeant Joe Gaff, Everett Police Department.
Thank you, Sergeant. Sergeant, as we've seen the issues in the village as well, my colleagues here raise a very valid point. My only question is that neighborhood has a 24-hour residential sticker now in place for that neighborhood, correct? So if we have that sticker in place. If we're going to talk about a citywide 24-hour parking stick, there's just a lot of placards going to have to be identified. How do you think we could put a measure in place to actually enforce this neighborhood? Because it's very valid. The neighbors up there.
Well, this is the first time being told of this issue right now.
Okay.
Since the 24th, so we'd have to talk to them to see what their issues are up there before we can address it. And regarding the other issues, 24, I think we need to talk about what's on the piece tonight, and then we can discuss further. But I believe that the issues that are going on at the hospital, we thought we addressed them under Lieutenant Hannon when we gave them the 24/7 parking. And being told tonight that it's mostly Everett residents that are parking there, so that's something we'll have to address when I talk to them at the next Traffic Commission meeting when we have it, to see what their issues are and see what we can help them from there.
Okay, and I'll come to the Traffic Commission meeting. I was just wondering if we're going to put multiple step or layers in place, how would we be able to enforce that? But we can discuss all of that at Traffic. I didn't know if you had an idea already, if something you were working on.
No, it was the first that I knew that it was on tonight for
I
that,
apologize.
and wasn't sure what their issue was.
That's okay. Thanks, Sergeant. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Marchese.
Yes, to Sergeant Gaff, can we just issue a placard to the people who live on the street so you could,
But before I say we start issuing stuff, I'd really like to sit down with that whole area.
so you'd
and
like this
discuss-
whole thing to come to Traffic
Then
Commission
I can
before
go to
you?
Traffic Commission, and we can discuss them on
Sure.
Traffic Commission. But I want to see exactly what their issues are, what time their issues are, and work with the administration from the hospital, see if we can work with that first.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. President, is it my suggestion to my colleagues maybe, and we did it in the village last week, Council Del Sol or Lieutenant Council Cone, maybe they put together a neighborhood meeting for those streets to be able to hear the concerns, let Sergeant Gaff hear those concerns from the residents. And we had very much success in the village last week when the mayor and his administration had put that together for the residents down at the Pioneer Chapel.
Just a point of information, I thought I mentioned it earlier, there is a neighborhood group, and they meet at the hospital on a monthly basis. So that's already in place. And they did discuss with Sergeant Gaff their desires. We understand it's a 24-hour parking permit, but it's something else, maybe the letter H, meaning our resident of hospital area. And it's not only the people that work there, I understand, it's people that may visit the area, and the sergeant is aware of the issue, so, and there is a neighborhood meeting. They have a monthly. The hospital is willing to work with you don't find that very often, that the hospital is willing to work with the neighborhood. There's about 32 people, I understand, that Ms. Tufts and her other group of friends that were neighbors who were here tonight She has all that information, and I'll provide you with any names of that neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I'll do a mailing to the neighborhood so that you get a
That'd be
full
great.
impact.
I did take some phone numbers. I did tell them I would reach out to them, and we will discuss it, and then we'll have a formal meeting up at the
Right.
Traffic Commission. They can bring their stuff forward, and we can talk to the whole Traffic Commission board on that, and then we can go from there.
And you know, I want to thank you, Sergeant Gaff. You're doing a great job on the Traffic Commission. I understand that you're very fair to people in this community. As you know, the City Council can only recommend to your commission, the Committee of the Traffic. We don't have to make any decisions here anymore, but we can actually recommend. And I want to thank, the sergeant was kind enough to speak to these residents, and it's people like yourself that make this a better community, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. There's a good Traffic Commission, bunch of guys and women down there that really work hard and reading everything that's brought forward, so it's a good, great group effort.
Thank you very much. I have no
Thank
further
you.
questions.
Any more questions?
Councilman Matusky, you want to hold this over for next meeting, or you want to?
No, I'd like to refer this, the sergeant has made it clear that he'll work with the neighborhoods. Councilman McLaughlin's suggestion was very good. I'll be notifying the residents along with Councilman Simonelli, Marchese, and McKinnon.
Just on a
Councilor
point of-
DePiero?
We didn't take a vote to make that amendment, so we have to do that
On
before
the-
we,
on the
to add the
sponsors?
co-sponsors. Yes.
Oh, okay. Motion's made to add Councilman McKinnon and Marchese to this
Second.
piece.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
And refer it to the Traffic Commission, Mr. President.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Clerk, could you go back to your agenda?
Can we suspend the rules, take item 20?
Motion to take item 20 on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Can you read number 20, please?
Item number 20 is an order offered by Councilor Michael K. Marchese in order to request approval from the state legislature to amend Section 3-1 of the city charter. Mayor.
Council Marchese.
Yes, if I may, as read here, I know the charter started to do this charter review, and we changed it to the 4-year term. I just have an issue about the urgency to do anything when you have a 4-year term as compared to when you have a 2-year term. And I'm not going to be ultra critical of this mayor, but I have an issue when we come off the biggest year of tax increase, and there's not an urgency to make cuts in the overall budget of the city because it doesn't make a difference. You're not up for election this year. And that's where the 4-year thing, it doesn't work for me. It may work for everybody else, but I just don't believe if you do a good job, you're going to get elected. And I'm just a little shocked. I don't know if we have a casino that's going to open the doors on time. Is there a contingency plan in case they delay them 6 months? Is there a contingency plan if they don't get a license? I mean, I haven't heard anything. I mean, what do we do with a $200 million plus budget if we're not getting supplemented? Like last year, we got supplemented by the 12 and a half, and whatever we took out of free cash last year, we still had a big increase. And that's the only thing here. I just think it makes you a better mayor and a better leader when there's urgency to be the best you can be every year, not once every 4 years. And that's my issue for submitting this piece of paper here. And I still don't think that anybody owns a corner seat. I'd like to see when your time's up, and someone else, maybe Mr. Perro, maybe Mr. McLaughlin, they'll be that age to run for mayor. And I just want to see things turn over, that's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor DePiero?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not entirely opposed to this piece. Term limits, everyone has their own opinion. I think we already have them. They're called elections, but if it's the will of the body for a term limit, I'd support it. I just don't like the idea of the 2-year term. If you have a freshman mayor come in, you deal with your predecessor's budget for the first 6 months, then you're going to propose your own, and just the continuously campaigning, I think, takes away from the job. I think it makes a leader afraid to make bold decisions that are probably for the better. Some ideas don't work. You need time to test them out. I think there's more stability in city government with a 4-year mayoral term. If that amendment's made, I will vote for it, but I won't vote for a 2-year term. That's all.
Council McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I support both amendments on this calendar this evening, both by Councilor Marchese and by Councilor DePiero. I think we should have term limits for all branches of government and all levels of government. I think that nobody owns any seat. We all work for the people, and I think that having term limits only keeps us more accountable and more reasonable to the residents that put us here and put our trust in us. Whether or not we can legally do this or not is going, I believe, up to the state to determine whether or not we can go through that process. There has been a lot of questioning back and forth. Unfortunately, I'd like to hear from the state on whether or not we can even do this or not. I think they're the only ones that should be able to give us the opinion on whether or not we could do it. So at this time, I would ask for favorable action on the piece and call for the question. As Council Marchese has written,
No second.
2-year terms.
No second on it.
No second.
Yep.
I get Council DeFlorio?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So
Nobody
I
seconded.
wanted to understand,
No, it was seconding?
Seconded.
Who seconded? Okay, I didn't see you.
I didn't hear him either. So, did you hear that, Mr. President?
I
It's up to
did.
you. Did you hear it? So
I didn't see you or hear you second
You
it.
already called me for this.
He called for the question, but I didn't see anybody second
It's
it.
the chair's decision. If
It's
the
the
chair
chair's
didn't hear a
decision.
second, you've already called the member, so the member has the floor, Mr. President.
Council DeFlorio?
From my understanding, this is 2 4-year terms for the mayor. Is this a term limit? No more than 8 years, in other words? It's 8 years. After 8 years, the mayor can't run anymore. Well, I want to amend this to add the councilors to it.
There's another piece.
So, okay. So this is 2 years terms, which I don't agree also. I'd rather see a 4-year term. Thank you.
Call for the question.
I'm the only one that can call for the question.
You have the floor.
But he
Council
just called
DeFlorio
for
has
the
the
question.
floor. Council DeFlorio has the floor, and Council Capone is the last speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I personally don't like term limits, and I understand the reason why people would want them, because you just feel like nothing happens, people get complacent, individuals in office have control over the situation, and that does happen, more often than we like. But the reality is, if you have someone who's doing a good job, why should they be forced out? And I think that when we impose term limits, I think we're taking power away from the people. Ultimately, it's the people who make the choice in the elections. And if they're unhappy with the way someone is operating their job, it's on them to get involved and stay involved. And I think we do a disservice when we put limits on. So for that reason, both in the mayor's race and in the council race, I won't be supporting those pieces. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Council Napolitano?
Thank you. Look, I agree. I don't, as much as I'd like to see in some areas term limitations, I think it's an ideal situation. And just a quick conversation with my colleague here, he made an interesting point, and came from Councilor DePiero. You put somebody in there in their last term, you got a lame duck representative. You want to be elected, you want to do the job, you perform, you produce. If you don't perform and produce, you got to be pretty damn good at convincing everybody else that you are to get reelected.
Correct.
You don't do the job, you don't get elected. Look, in my younger days, I was a registered Republican. I'm not today. I'm a Democrat. But would you have kicked Ted Kennedy out of office after 4 years? After 6 years? This is a hypothetical.
Councilors.
The point is that there are other. Maybe that wasn't a good example, but there are other elected officials that members in this room consider high regard. Would you kick them out? Would you kick them out? Well, again, I'm not going to name drop, but the point I'm trying to make is that you do set the stage for somebody who's got so many terms, at the end of that term, just coasting on their last term. You have to produce to get elected. You do your job. This isn't like the old days when we had two branches. You came in third, you squeaked by. Maybe you didn't show up, you still got a check. This body here, and I challenge any member sitting here to dispute me, our attendance, our involvement as a body has been higher than ever before. When you look at the percentage of common councilors and Board of Aldermen combined, and you looked at the overall attendance, never did you have 100% or at the very least 10 out of 11 attendance. Every member here has been here for every single meeting. And why? Because we all know the same thing. There's no hiding. We do our jobs or we don't get reelected. That's why everybody in this room has been reelected. So I'm not a big fan of term limitations in that respect because I think it cuts off good, qualified people who may not have the financial means to aspire for higher office, but on the local level, they're doing a very constructive job. So I'll go along with the body. I'm not going to vote again. I'm not going to oppose this. I still believe that this is a charter issue, and I still believe that it's going to come back and state so. If you want to make these changes, it's going to be a charter commission formed. But again, I'm not going to get into my colleague's way by pushing on that. I'll support this.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Councilor Matusky. Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we have a new charter, and here we got 7 or 8 different items on this agenda tonight to change the charter, which is, I don't know, 5 years old? There is a process. Now, you know, 4-year term, this is every 2 years. As I stated at the previous meeting, now I don't know whether it's in the charter in Malden or Revere, but I know those mayors were very popular when they left, Mayor Howard and Mayor Ambrosino. After serving 2 4-year terms, they both went on to be city managers. Needless to say, I like a 4-year term. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But every 2 years for the mayor, especially when Everett is big time now. Well, it's hopefully going to happen. Councilman Marchese said, you know, we're on thin ice here. We don't know what. The Gaming Commission hasn't said anything. We only get 60-something days to go here. People are lining up to get employed, and, you know, the mayor, this job is really going to encompass quite a bit in this community. Needless to say, there's a couple of ways to change the charter. You go out and work at it with a clipboard and get signatures and say, geez, and walk up to people. Hey, there's a coward's way of doing all this stuff. To me, that's the way this is going around the circles. Well, I'm in favor of the 4-year terms. I don't mind the 4-year, but 2 of them. Now, if you want to restrict the council, I hope I'm alive in 10 years. That'll give me 50 years in office, which would be really pleasing. And if you want term that, yeah, I'd probably retire at 70, but I enjoy it up here most of the time, I got to tell you the truth. And I like helping people, but, you know, majority does rule. You know, they've tried this in various places, and you've got to leave office for 2 years and then come back. You know, a vacancy, then you can come back and run again. But the truth of the matter is, and I've always said this, if you can stand in front of the post office and get the required signatures, or in front of Rite Aid or wherever you go, or go door to door even, but everybody squirts that. It's almost like running for office. You're required to get 500 signatures. Well, really you need 600 or 700, because there was a candidate last year that got 700 signatures and 500 of them were bad. I don't know if people remember that, but needless to say, you've got to get the will of the people, and that's how you do this type of thing. You can't be tinkering with this charter every meeting. There's 7 pieces on here, for crying out loud. Now, you know, I'm a reasonable person, but I think 8 years being mayor is a good amount of time. 2 4-year terms. And most people that become mayor have served in this body. And there's several, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 people that's sitting here right now that have run for mayor. I've been mayor. So, we're active in this community, but, you got to do the work to get on the ballot. That's number one. And if you've got an issue, you can put it on the ballot. It says that right in the charter. You've got to get certain amount of signatures. Well, the process is, this is going about, there's two ways to do it. You can go to the State House, but
Guys, just
at any rate,
go through-
Mr.
go through the
President,
chair, please.
I'm not going to vote in favor of this tonight.
Thank you. Counsel DePiero. Oh. Councilman McLaughlin, you had your hand raised? You're good. Councilor Hanlon. There you go. Thank you.
You didn't have the floor, you couldn't call.
The question is to send this to the state legislature.
Just want to clarify, are you talking two? You talking 2 4-year terms?
Nope.
No, this says
It was not amended. It's 4 2-year terms, 8 years total with,
Every 2 years.
is what the proposal is, correct, Counselor?
Thank you.
Counselor Capone.
No.
Counselor DeFlorio.
No.
Counselor DePiero.
No.
Counselor Hanlon.
No.
Counselor Marchese.
Yes.
Counselor Matusky.
No.
Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Napolitano.
Yes.
Counselor Simonelli.
Yes.
And
No.
President, I'm sorry?
No.
Thank you. And President Della Sola.
No.
That's 4 yeas, 7 nays. The motion has failed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take item 22, since we're on the subject.
All in favor? Take 22. All opposed? The ayes have. Please read 22.
Mr. President, item 22 is an order offered by Councilor Anthony DePiero to request approval from the state legislature to amend Section 2-1 of the City of Everett Charter, Legislative Branch.
Council DePiero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wrote this piece in response to the proposed term limits for the office of mayor. I said I'm not married to term limits in general. Like I said, I believe we already have them, and they're called elections. If you do a good job or not, the voters will let you know. However, if we were going to consider, for one, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander, and since we've already had the conversation on the other piece, I'll call for the question and
Second.
vote for how the body feels.
Thank you.
Second.
Question was called and it was second.
Favorable action, and then I'll call for the question.
Yep. This is
Call for
5 2-year
question now?
terms.
This is on
Second.
number
We have a
22.
second, a call for the
Yeah,
question.
we have it.
All right.
I'm going to call the roll.
Roll call
Councilor
vote.
Capone.
No.
Councilor DeFlorio.
No.
Councilor DePiero.
Yes.
Councilor Hanlon.
No.
Councilor Marchese.
Yes.
Councilor Matusky.
No.
Councilor McKinnon.
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin. Yes. Councilor Napolitano.
No.
Councilor Simonelli.
No.
And President Della Sola.
No.
4 yeas, 7 nays. You have failed to pass that order. Have to revert back.
Back to regular business, please.
Item number 1 is an order offered by Councilor Richard J. Della Sola Jr. as president, that the Everett City Council declare 2 Harley-Davidson police motorcycles surplus. The inventory is an 05 Harley-Davidson and another 205 Harley-Davidsons. The sale of these 2 motorcycles is expected to generate significant interest through the municipal bid public auction site. Each motorcycle should return an estimated $7,500 each.
Suspend Rule 13.
All in favor?
All right.
Suspend Rule 13. Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council Capone.
Yes.
Council DeFlorio. Councilor DePiero.
Yes.
Councilor Hanlon.
Yes.
Councilor Marchese.
Council Marchese? On number 1.
The 2 motorcycles
Yes.
for sale. Councilor Matusky.
Yes.
Councilor McKinnon.
Yes.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Councilor Napolitano.
Yes.
Councilor Simonelli.
Yes.
President Della Sola.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays. Mr. President, you have passed the order.
Excuse
Did
me, just a little information. Can we get up our administrators that we have here?
Yeah, so
You know, we have,
I have
yeah.
two
Okay.
items, 6 and 9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
This one, I think,
That was,
actually, yeah, you know what? They left that in committee, I'm sorry.
It's Ferry Street.
It's going to be 9, or not 6.
9.
6 was talked to in committee, and they left.
That was
it.
9.
Take 9?
Yes, my mistake.
Right now.
Yes.
Put it to the Ferry Street.
Item number 9, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilor Michael J. McLaughlin, that the administration give an immediate response to the idea of a 24-hour parking sticker enforcement for Ward 1 and Ward 6 due to casino patrons possibly taking up residential parking spots in these specific wards.
Could we have Sergeant Gaff before us, please?
All invited guests, please. Once they say the names, Councilor McLaughlin, you have the floor.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff for Mayor Di Maria.
Sergeant Joe Gaff, Everett PD.
Jay Monty, Transportation Planner.
Gentlemen, thank you for appearing this evening. Sergeant Gaff, I know that you are newer to the position, as Councilman Matusky said, doing a great job. I really see a need for immediate action. I know Mr. O'Donnell is in agreement, not to put words in his mouth. I know that probably the whole administration is in agreement that we need to think about this and think about it fast. And I'm hoping that you guys have some answers for us. Even in my own neighborhood, and I'll bring it back because I live there and off of Main Street, the last several weeks we're having trouble with trash pickup and recycling pickup because people parking there, coming to park in the streets and taking a bus, going elsewhere to work, whether it's to Boston or wherever they're going. But we're starting to see a trickling effect now. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in a couple of months from now. So I hope that you guys will have some answers to what we can do as far as this issue. I see this nice, colorful map. I'm sure Mr. Monty's ready to explain to us.
Well, thanks for having us up here, and we have been working on this. We've been working on this for transportation with other agencies regarding transportation, and with the parking, we have been meeting regularly. And we have taken a lot of information, bouncing around each other, and just roughly, I mean, we have nothing set in stone because we still want to talk to the residents. One of the goals that we have is that we're going to have a traffic commission meeting. We're going to invite all the people from Lower Broadway, and we're just talking about Ward 1 right now. So we'll be talking about Ward 1, correct, Ward 1, Lower Broadway, right now, and Ward 6. But right now, we'll be talking Ward 1 right now regarding Lower Broadway. And the plan that we'd like to take in place is have a traffic commission meeting. We'd like to go 24/7 parking down there with some, you know, if you want me to go street by street or just like Mystic Street, Thorndike, Lynn Street. We're going to make them restricted sided parking, 24/7, one-sided parking. We did talk, when Mr. Hanlon talked last time about having Everett residents come down. We discussed that we need to find some spots for them, you know, if they want to come down. So we did talk about putting that on Linden Street, Line Street down there. Cortland, Beecham, there's only one little spot of parking in Beecham Street. We have to take that away because that is going to be part of the truck route going down Robin, down Dexter. So we're going to try to, all the trucks will be staying off that area, so there's going to be a new truck route. But we're looking to go 24/7 parking. They will get a new sticker with Lower Broad, with an emblem on it, or a different color, to know that we, the parking people, that they are residents of Lower Broadway. We are in the process of finding out, Joanne is finding out through the people she can, how many registered motor vehicles are listed in that ward. So we know how many parking spots that we have to accompany for, how many parking spots are down there. So we should have that information in a couple of weeks, we're hoping. We'd like to get this plan on board by June 1st. We've talked to the DPW, so when we have our traffic commission meeting in May, bring all the residents from there up, and that will give us some time to get the signs up, get everybody notified, and start it by June 1st, because casino opens June 23rd. And that will start going from there. And it will be 24/7. So there's some changes, but we also have to, we've got to be strict on parking at the beginning. We want to really strict it down. We can always ease the parking. If we find that parking is not a big problem, we can relax it a little bit, that's great. It's always easier to relax it than it is for us to try to take spots away after everything's open and try to put signs up and restrict it. So that's why we're thinking going real strict. There'll be no parking in Bow Street from Thorndike down. We just feel that the traffic flow needs to go there. Mystic Street will be a one-way because you can't come across Broadway. There's no lights there to let you out on Broadway, so we'll be going down. There'll be plenty of spots. We've talked about Uber. That's all in the big transportation meetings that we are with state, DOT, Boston, MBTA. So there's a whole committee that meets every Thursday over in Medford regarding that. But that is simply our plan going forward. And Jay can probably help out a little bit more on some other stuff.
So I do want to speak to Council, your concern about kind of beyond Lower Broadway. I think Lower Broadway is relatively the easier one to do. The map you're looking at really reflects the existing parking restrictions out there today, converting most of the resident parking over to 24-hour parking and then saving some for residents who may want to come down and use the park, let's say. But, certainly there's other areas of concern, like you mentioned with the bus routes. Certainly folks could come in anywhere along Broadway, anywhere along Main Street, park, and then hop on a bus down to the casino. That's something we want to think about as well. So we have a bit of a belt and suspenders approach to this. The areas we know or confident that there's going to be an issue on day one, we're going to be doing things like this. And we obviously with the community meetings down in the village, that's sort of a separate but similar process to think about what parking restrictions should look like down there. We are getting a consultant on board in addition to look at not only the parking demand currently, but the ability of somebody to park somewhere and get on a bus. We want to start to think about. We don't know today exactly what's going to happen, but we want to have all the information in our hands so that come opening day, if there's an issue somewhere we didn't foresee it, we have all the tools ready to address it quickly. So that's sort of our plan going forward. Address the really known concerns quickly, but do the homework so that any unforeseen issues can be dealt with quickly once they arise.
I say, with respect to Ward 6 Council, I know we're all, and several members of this body were here collectively at that community meeting, and in speaking with Sergeant Gaff this morning, there seems to be some improvements with the flow down there. Is that fair to say, Sergeant?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why it's kind of, we're not being real aggressive right now with respect to Ward 6, because it seems that there has been improvements, but as Jay said, we're closely monitoring everything, and as these issues come up, we will address them. I know there is a lot to digest just based on that community meeting as you were there. That was a good, healthy 2-hour back and forth exchange of ideas and concerns.
On Ward 6, maybe answer some of your questions. So we are hoping to get a presentation for you guys through WIN to come up here, before it opens, to show you the whole transportation, all the way out to 93, all the way out there. That's how far we're going with boards. But regarding Ward 6, so there is going to be a shuttle within the city limits taking you to the casino, starting over by the Silver Line, going to City Hall, going to the Evergreen parking lot, which is Ward 6. So we're figuring, why are you going to park and try to park in that little area and go walk down the casino when you're going to get free shuttle anyways? That's a huge parking lot that's secure. And that's the thinking of the shuttle that's going to be taking everybody by. And that's a 600, parking lot that's being put there. So we feel that everybody's going there. And also that we have to take in consideration is some businesses, and Jay is, working with that specialist to figure out how many more spots we need to make sure those businesses that are still down Broadway survive. That's one of our things that we have to work on, and that's how much spaces we're trying to go through the speech. Also, we have to take a look at the thriving industry that is going down in Ward 6 on Santilli and all down there. And that is a thriving area. And if we jump and just put a 24/7 parking down there, we could jeopardize what really has been built down there, with 2,000 people, 3,000 people down there on a daily day, and we get very little police complaints. So I think that with the parking lot at the Evergreen, which is at the end of Air Force Road, and the shuttle that's just going to keep running and running, it could, I don't think it's going to affect the village area. Who's going to try to go park in those little and walk when you have free shuttle? I hope that answered the question a little bit, but go ahead.
Sergeant, thank you. Sergeant, or Mr. O'Donnell, I am very concerned. I'll be honest, I thought that this plan would have been put in place 3 years ago, per se, because this was the most impacted area of this whole project, was these streets right across the street from the project. So to say that we're just implementing this now, I think is a little too late, to be honest, because I would have assumed that this would have already been put into place with all those additional workers going down there every day. We're seeing 1,500 workers a day down on the casino site. I assume that this was already put into place through 2 years ago, whatever the case of
Well,
time
the issue
frame
there,
is.
Counselor, is that the landscape has drastically changed. I mean, as construction began and the building started going up, they owned nothing across the street. And they just like bits and pieces. So
Yeah, no,
it would have
I-
been hard to implement the plan in that fashion, not knowing what the changes were forthcoming.
I'm in awe, and I have to be honest, I respect all of you tremendously, but I'm in awe that there is no traffic plan for Ward 6, and that you guys have nothing proposed for the Main Street section of the, and I thought that Councilor Della Sol, Mr. President, was going to appoint a couple of members to a traffic committee to be able to work with you guys on being able to be at the table to have our voices heard. I think that my colleagues were looking for a citywide traffic plan for a 24-hour residential parking sticker program. And I thought, let's just focus in on the perimeter or the diameter of the area of the casino, and then we could build it out from there. My colleagues wanted to go through the whole city on day one, which isn't a bad idea, but I thought at least to start, we would start with the perimeter of the casino site. To say that Ward 6 or Main Street section is going to be impacted is very concerning. And again, Sergeant, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you at all. Truthfully, I am not. But I'm very shocked to hear that you guys don't think that Ward 6 is going to have an abundance of cars that are, I'm thinking up in Ward 3, there are going to be people parking up in Ward 3, taking a $3 or $5 Uber ride down to the casino site. But I didn't want to start that far out. I just wanted to start with the area of the casino site. If anybody thinks that Main Street isn't going to be impacted drastically come the middle of June, I'll be honest, I know you live here, Sergeant. Don't want to give that out, but.
So if I may, I mean, I understand, traffic's tough on Main Street anyways, right? We all know that, we agree with that. But we have to understand that there's a bigger picture just regarding parking, okay? So the transportation meetings that we have, and when people, we don't want people driving to Everett. That's the name of the game of this whole transportation.
We may not want you, but let's be realistic,
Right.
Sergeant.
But
They're coming.
They're coming, but we gotta understand that the system that they have in place is, especially the opening week, okay? We have a plan to go, we don't want anybody driving down there. That's the plan, and that's how we're gonna do it. They're having the whole meteor. We're using Wellington Station as the main process. So they want everybody on the orange line. They're having the water taxis. They're having, Uber and Lyft are gonna be strictly enforced. They're not gonna be able to drop off down there. It's gonna be very tight how people are gonna get down there. We really don't want people driving down there. If what the Wynn people say, and they're the professionals, and they do a great job and everything, the parking lots that are being used, and the shuttles, and the T, and their buses, and all their shuttles, that's our goal, is to keep most of the traffic away from Lower Broadway and Main Street. And with the signage that's going up throughout the whole area, Malden, Stoneham, Melrose, 93 South Boston, all the signage that is going up in 93 when you read those boards, that's how far the signage is going. They have their own AM, they're gonna have their own AM.
But
radio
Sergeant,
station.
we know signs only go so far, and I'm not, again, trying to be disrespectful or argumentative here.
We've talked about that.
And IKEA opened up, I think it was in Southbridge or Sturbridge, somewhere in Western Mass, right? And it was just overwhelming, and that was just a box store that was opening up. And I remember that city was shut down. I forget, Council President says, right, I have a 5-minute rule, I apologize. I'm going to ask that we table, I'm not quite sure what to do. I'll be honest, I'm in shock that this is the response. I'm going to yield the floor to my colleagues, but I'm not sure what to do.
Thank you. Council Napolitano.
Thank you. Okay. The thing is, have you looked at the MGM opening models? What they experienced on the opening day?
We did send a contingent out there, and Wynn did send people out there. But we are a different entity than MGH, which is a square box.
No, I didn't ask that. And MGM is a casino. He's talking about IKEA. I'm talking about a casino.
Yes, I am too.
Did you look at the models, is what I'm asking?
They did. I didn't personally, they did.
Okay, but you're formulating a traffic plan. That's why I'm asking if you looked at it. See, the thing is that this is not something that, there's a big difference between implementation and preparation. Preparation, we've known for a long time what was going to impact this city. And the steps being told are really the same steps we were aware of. Again, the biggest problem that the Encore is going to have is going to be educating the public on how to utilize these processes. But the majority of the people coming down here, we cannot assume that they're educated in those processes. Otherwise, they're still going to gum up these neighborhoods. Now, I've represented Ward 1 for 17 years. This is fine, that's great. The line area definitely needs to be addressed, and I'm glad to see that it is. But the idea that some of the natural boundaries that we've considered to be part of the city, like the Parkway, Main Street, are going to be respected, that's nuts. And I say that because in my neighborhood, on graduation night, when the high school has graduation on the stadium, I live 4 to 5 blocks away from the stadium, and you can't find a parking spot 3 to 4 blocks away from my house. That's one event. This is going to be non-stop. You know, the logistics of our city is different in most cases. You can conceivably ditch your car in front of Pope John, hop on a bus, and get to the casino for the cost of a bus ride. This is what's going to impact the city. And the fact that we're addressing an area, this is a wave. We're addressing the parking issue down the line, and that's fine, but where are the people who are going to be hunting for spaces down there and find out they can't park? Where are they going to go? They're not going to go home if they've taken the time to come down to the city. They're now going to park on Revere Street. They're going to park down on I don't know, I'm trying to think of Ward 6. Help me out, Ward 6. Give me some streets. School Street. They're going to branch out into the city. And this is the concerns that we asked to be addressed, not the obvious. This is, to me, and I apologize, maybe it's because I've represented this area and have spent considerable time down the line. This is obvious. It's not the obvious we're trying to address. We're trying to address the worst case scenario. When these people start crashing in on these neighborhoods and you have this implemented down the line, what's the preparation for the remaining neighborhoods?
So if I may, and I completely agree with you. So as I mentioned earlier, we are bringing on help in the form of a consultant to address this exact issue. You know, we could very easily do 24-hour resident parking at the drop of a hat. That is simple, but there's a lot of unintended consequences in doing that, right?
No, I'm a former business. I understand the consequences, and I'm not asking for 24/7, but I would expect 3 months away from opening the casino, we'd be better prepared.
So our current contract with this consultant is to bring back to us, you know, a plan of these kind of, I guess I'll call them hotspots, right? So Lower Broadway, the Village, Main Street, along the bus corridors, places that I think that you brought up that we're probably gonna have some issues, right? And we will have done our homework. And if at that time we feel it's necessary to, you know, impose new parking conditions on those corridors, we can go ahead and do so in ahead of the casino. I think we're just, we want to make sure we're not acting too soon and we're not being too draconian as well. So, you know, we'll be prepared to make those changes come that time. But I wouldn't want to impose, like you said, you know, 24-hour parking off, you know.
My concern is, I've been around this long enough, as in most of the members of this room. Are you saying to me that in 3 months, you can bring a traffic consultant, conduct a survey, create a solution, and launch it within 3 months? I have never seen anything in city government work that fast.
In targeted areas. So
but we don't even know what those target areas is because we're not getting the answers we need to what you're identifying. This may be a targeted area, but this does not address the other parts of the concerns that members in this room have. I know Council Matusky and I have discussed a few areas because he's right on the fringe of, he's probably the closest council living to the casino. He's someone who's going to directly be impacted by this. And his kind of neighborhood is ideal for your average person to turn into a parking lot. Am I wrong? Would you agree? It's a dead-end area where they consider nobody looking. That's the areas we need addressed.
And Councilor, if I may, and Jay, let me interject. The companies that we have working on this, Nelson Nygaard, has been given all this information, and a lot of the information is information that we've discussed in this very forum with respect to, we already sometimes see some issues with streets that are on bus lanes and everything. All of those are being identified, and if the issue is compounded, as they said, we will be able to act with immediacy to rectify the situation.
I don't dispute what you're saying. It's just based on my experience, given the amount of time we have left, unless somebody's praying for a delay in the opening, I don't see how it's feasible that you could address the concerns that we're posting outside of north of the Parkway and Main Street in such a short period of time, because based on what you're saying, it's telling me that until you see the problem, then you'll have a problem to resolve it. I agree that the businesses down there need to be able to get their customers in and out. Otherwise, we're gonna end up pushing them out of business. So, I'm just.
That's why we're gonna have the free 24-hour shuttle, or up to midnight, taking everybody to the 4 locations in Everett. And that is just, one way. And I think if we see an issue, what we have planned now, next week, there's more houses coming down, there's more businesses coming down, so we have to change. So for us to plan 3 years ago, yeah, we talked about this, the chief talked about this, Lieutenant Hannon, and everybody, but we needed the final footprint. We got it, but it keeps moving, and it keeps moving and moving and moving. So we have to adjust a little bit. And with the shuttles and the everyday traffic, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is going to be the busiest time. We know that. But even the professionals don't see them parking on Broadway or down on Route 16 or Revere Street walking when there is a 600 parking lot for free. And that's all going to be, mapped out. And that's what, the Encore people are doing. They're mapping this all out, and it's going to be out there.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're talking about human nature, which means that people are going to always take the easiest way out, even if it means ditching their car and coming up some other convoluted way to get down there. I just wish we were relying more on our own resources and less on others. Thank you.
5 minutes. Thank you, Councilman Napolitano. I have Council Hanlon and Council DeFlorio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of quick questions. Officer Gaff, I don't have to call you Joe. Officer Gaff. I'm kind of concerned when you had mentioned about special stickers for the person that lives on the, down in Ward 1, so that they can park there. Are they going to get 2 stickers? One. So where do they park when they don't want to park down there if they want to park someplace else in Everett overnight?
They'll be okay. So
Okay.
it's a sticker for the whole city.
Yeah.
But it will just tell the parking people or the officers, if they're enforcing parking down there, that is a sticker for that whole area. And if they go up to Broadway, McKinnon's, they're good to go.
Yeah, okay. Just want to mention that below, you said Lower Broadway, there is no parking in Ward 6. There is no parking in Ward 6, so you don't even have to worry about that. No parking in Ward 6, anywhere. So just, except when you mentioned you did mention the Village area, so that'd be kind of a concern. That's not a bad walk from there to the casino if people learn about it, so I would like to see something in there and make sure that's good. When if you get up as far as Main Street, what I hope you don't do is that if I have a sticker to park on my side of the street and I have to move for street cleaning, do I go to the other side of the street? And what happens when you go to the other side of the street, unless you're really lucky? You never get a parking spot. So we've got to watch for the problems that we have with street cleaning.
But we're just trying to figure out, even with the Encore people, you're not going to park on Air Force Road and walk when you can drive down the road 100 yards and park in the free secured lot and get a free ride.
I might park there overnight. Who knows? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Council DeFlorio and then Council Capone after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Officer Gaff, you keep saying that it's free parking. From my understanding is
The Evergreen, correct? For
they
the
have to
first
pay.
River Green has got to be.
But anyways, getting back.
The 2 lots. The River Green is across.
Council DeFlorio got the floor.
My understanding is the Evergreen, which will be down off Air Force Road, for opening week, I believe, was going to be free. Free. Yeah. And then, I believe so, right? For that.
And I could confirm that Wednesday.
Yeah. But the 2 lots across the street will be paid lots.
Okay, the other question I have is, right now, I understand everybody's talking about the casino, which we should be, but I think we have a little bigger problem than just the casino. I see it every day. take a bus every day, and I see people coming from Malden or other areas, parking on Dyer Ave, getting the bus and going to Boston. So, you know, the parking gets tighter and tighter, all right? And, I mean, I don't want to be mean in any way. It doesn't affect me because I have a driveway. But there's a lot of poor people that don't have a driveway, and it does affect them because when they come home at 3, 4 o'clock with their kids after school, they have no place to park. And these people are taking the bus to Boston to save money. So I think, and I've been saying this for a long time, I think we should really consider doing a study on doing 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, we don't want to hurt the businesses. So because of that 24 hours, now I got, from the business people on Main Street, we had gotten signatures. Put meters there. They want the meters. They'd rather have the meters because people are parking there all day long and not moving their cars. So in the business areas, you tell even the people that live on Main Street, that live in the houses, okay, when it comes 9 o'clock in the morning, from 9 to 4, move your cars. The business people have to be allowed to do business. So I think we should consider in the future to do the whole city, like even Somerville. If I go to Somerville, my friend comes out with a placket saying I can park there. But before I leave, she's running out, because if I don't give that back to her, for her to get another one, she's gonna pay $250. So when you tell people you get 2 free passes when you have company, and if you come back to us again because you lost it, it's destroyed, we don't care. There's no excuses, you're gonna pay $250. They're gonna hold on to those. They're not gonna give them to anybody. So I think we should take into consideration, the city is growing. The city's going in a different direction, and I think we have to grow with the city and take into consideration and do 24 hours a day parking and start putting some garages for people to park for the businesses. So that's my opinion at this time. Thank you.
Those are very good points, Counselor. They have been part of the conversation going on.
All right, thank you.
And if we
Thank
could
you,
find some
Counselor.
space for a garage, we'd love to.
Yeah, right here, right behind City Hall.
Yeah.
Knock down that big wall, and you can go up 6 flights, or 6, all the way up. Put in a capital improvement.
Councilor Capone and Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to our invited guests, this isn't the first time we've talked about this. And in fairness to you gentlemen, we've been working on this for a long time. And we've talked about people on other parts of the city who have been hopping out of their car and getting on the bus. But the reality is Lower Broadway, Ward 1 is going to get hit real hard on this. And ideas have been kicked around. We do have other people coming in. I think that in large part, we've probably relied on the expertise of Encore Boston Harbor, because at the end of the day, if they can't get people to their building, they're not going to succeed. And arguably, we believe they know what they're doing. One thing that you mentioned, because I do understand the concern, the frustrations of my colleagues, and I know you share them, because this isn't being ignored. It's being worked on. It's a lot easier to say, let's get a solution, than to actually find a solution. But I think what might help my colleagues in the viewing audience is if we could facilitate some sort of a presentation by the Encore folks to show how this whole traffic flow is going to happen. Because this is a pretty awesome event, and awesome and massive. And it's less than 3 months away. We already have a traffic issue in the city. It's going to add greatly to it. So if we could kind of get into their mindset as far as how they see the flow of traffic happening, that might help us along the way. And again, I want to give you gentlemen the credit for what you've been doing, because we've talked about it. I don't even know how many times we've talked about it. It's been numerous times. But as we get closer to the finish line, it gets concerning. But, you know, in all fairness, I don't want it to be thought of that it's been ignored or somehow you're not worrying about it, going on to something else. This is something that's being actively worked on. We realize that we're getting close to the finish line. We really need to tie it up. And I think that presentation might help us have a better sense of where we're at. So whatever you could do on your end to help facilitate that, I would greatly appreciate it. And I do thank you for your time and your effort. Because I know one of the things that we talked about as well is that in addition to the residents down there, we've got to worry about the businesses, you said, Sergeant, and we have to worry about the overnight guests for the residents down the line. So these are all moving parts that we're all concerned about. So, and I know the Traffic Commission is a dedicated body I know, Chief, you've been working on it, and I know Community Development has. So collectively, we'll get there. But if you could help us with that facilitation with Encore, I think that that would help out a lot.
I did speak to the chief today. We were when we had another meeting today. Did speak to the chief, and we do have, like I said, we do meet with the transportation group. That includes everybody. I mean, you know, all the way from Coast Guard, all the way up to, you know, Boston State, everybody. And I will talk to them, and we thought it would be a good idea that once we get the final pieces, all the moving parts, all the agencies last month had to submit their manpower and what they thought. So it's a process that we're doing for transportation throughout the whole state. And once they finalize that, and we get, we pretty have our plan down what we want to do for opening week and for the future after that, for manpower and down there in the state, in Boston, and BTA. Once that final plan is ready for opening week, we will ask if they can come up, present everything, because we are the ones that are going to be affected the most, not
Right.
Charlestown, not Malden, not
Absolutely.
Medford, not Chelsea. It's us. It's in Everett.
Yeah.
It might be Boston. It's Everett, so we got to make sure that we're all on board, and the chief and the chief staff, Kevin, agreed that we should ask them to come when we have the final plan and put a presentation of how this whole moving parts
Yeah.
throughout the state. You know, we're going to have, there will be, I want to say there's going to be at least 100 officers amongst all the agencies per shift throughout this region for traffic control.
Yeah.
So if Route 99 is starting to get clogged up, we're shutting it down, and we're deferring them to parking lot B. If parking lot B gets them, we're going to transfer them all the way as far as the airport and shuttle them over. So there is places so it doesn't get clogged in Everett. So, I mean, I get it, but there is a bigger
Absolutely.
There is a
Yeah.
bigger concept with how we can shut things down and don't let anybody in the area to boot everybody back to where the lots are.
And I think that that would be very helpful, so
Yes,
I
think
appreciate
so too,
that.
and that's what we talked about
Thank you.
today, about talking with them and seeing when the final presentation, they can come up and help us explain everything, how it's going to affect Everett, how we can shut things down, move things around, have officers and troopers at every intersection, Wellington Circle, Sweetser Circle, Second in the Parkway, Revere Street. I mean, there's going to be troopers on the Parkway. They own the Parkway, not us. They will have 2 guys there at every intersection, make sure no gridlock. So it is going to all come together, and I understand the parking, and we will work with you as to whatever you think would be the best idea, and we'll just keep working and come up with the best that works for the whole city.
And I know you will. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Capone. Council Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. This is to the planning director.
I'm timing you.
Excuse me?
I'm timing you. Go ahead.
I just started. And I've been using my watch too, and I get the clock right there, but I won't go over 5 minutes. I won't even be that long. But my question is, the casino people, if they realize that this is really going to be a big success, and we hope that it is. I did take a tour, as I said, with my colleagues, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It is unbelievable. I've never seen anything so beautiful. But at a certain point, if the Casino Encore people realize that this is such a big deal, and there's no, we've got to have our customers park somewhere. The Gateway Mall holds, I don't know, maybe 3,000 cars. I don't really know. At some point, they would have to make a decision to make it easier on the host community, which is us. I mean, if we have to go in that direction, you're talking about going all the way to the airport. I mean, I understand the shuttle service and so forth, but I think it would be incumbent upon the Encore people to actually pursue that massive parking lot. Now, I happen to be a Home Depot person, but there's one in Chelsea. There's one in Somerville. BJ's is one, and so forth. But they would have to make that decision at some point. And it's walkable right from their parking lot. So, these are things, and there's property down the line area that haven't been sold yet. I don't know why. I know there's some family trusts and so forth like that. And some of the property they bought hasn't been torn down yet. We're talking 3 months. The Malden Auto Body, they bought that whole thing up to Mike's Roast Beef and a few houses in the back. It's my understanding they bought most of everything on Line Street. When is, how quickly do they tear things down there? And what is, I know that I know they tear them down pretty quick, but seriously, and there's some stubborn people that aren't selling, I guess. I shouldn't say homeowners, because they've been getting some pretty good prices for the property there. But needless to say, at some point, Encore has to realize that, hey, well, we're overwhelming this little city that's 3 square miles. We got to buy the Gateway Mall property. That, I'm just saying, as the host community, I wasn't part of this agreement here, but that should have been right in that, a fine line, that if this poses such an impact on the community, we have to buy that property at some point. And the other thing is, I hope you've got some, like where I live, Councilman Napolitano mentioned, I can visualize a sign saying no casino parking in this neighborhood, or something like that. So people won't even take the right after Richie Slush. I mean, that's just an idea. I hope you've got signs ready, and well, they can be made quickly. Is Encore helping out with that infrastructure part of it, the signage and all this?
Yes.
Or is it all on the city?
They're helping out.
Oh, they're helping out, okay. I think you guys are doing great. It's the unknown vision that we don't know what we're going to get, and I'm hoping for the best, as we all do. But, to say that they've done nothing, I mean, and have been dragging their feet, is really over the top. But I think I've been to several meetings, and I think you're on the right track. You don't know what you're going to get, and that's the thing. And I hope it's successful. We're talking 60-something days. It's 4.5 minutes, so I yield my time.
You actually have 4 minutes, Counselor.
Oh, thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. President. 4 minutes, wow, see? High time, everybody, also.
You all set, Counselor? We have Counsel McKinney, round it off.
Thank you, Mr. President, to our invited guests. I wanted to say, this should have been in committee, because then we could have asked all the questions that we needed to ask. And I think you guys are going to have a handle on it if you're meeting with all these other agencies, Sergeant Gaff and, Chief. I think that we should be probably spot on for the opening anyway, hopefully, you know what I mean? And then it's the elephant in the room, you don't know what you're going to get. So when we find out, then you're going to have to adapt to it, that's all. So thank you for doing that. Excuse customary thanks.
We have any more speakers around? Counsel McLaughlin.
Thank you. I just want to touch on a few points, and I agree with Councilman McKinnon, that should have gone to committee, and I'm not sure that it shouldn't at this point. There's a couple of things. We've seen the impact of the village at 600 students going into a school and how much that has really ended traffic flow in that neighborhood in the village section of the city. Imagine having thousands of cars coming into the city on one given day. I mean, thousands and thousands of cars. It is going to be something that we've never seen before. Get your bicycles out. I'm not even joking, because what happened in the village, people had to change their work hours. They've had upside their whole life, change their lives because of the school that has gone in the village. What is going to happen in the city of Everett is going to be something we've never seen or imagined before. A couple of things I just wanted to touch on quickly. The parking lot that you referred to, Sergeant Gaff. Councilor Capone and I actually had a great opportunity to meet with the Encore folks, and we had strongly encouraged them to charge for that lot so that we would defer that from not being utilized. They had promised that they would give a few hours in the morning, earlier part of the day, to use it for people that wanted to go maybe walk the Harbor Walk or use the outdoor amenities or whatever. It wouldn't be a free parking lot. It would be charged at an astronomical number, actually. It wasn't going to even be a cheap lot. It was going to be very highly charged so that people would not be using that. So that parking lot is not really in question, to be honest. You talk about we'll wait to see what happens. Well, we waited to see what happened on Church and Webster Street right outside of the City Hall. And when we figured out there's been a problem, there's been no solution to the problem. So to say that we're going to wait for the problem to arise and then we're going to come to a solution to the problem doesn't sit well with me, because we've identified a problem and it hasn't really been addressed, and nobody's been able to get a handle on it. Rolling out this program June 1st, I really thought, we brought this up in February, hoping that we'd roll it out at April 1st at street sweeping, so that everybody would get on some sort of a page. Rolling it out 3 weeks before the opening of the casino, the city's going to be tipped upside down as it is by June 1st. Never mind now trying to implement a city sticker program. June 1st, you might as well kiss it goodbye. It's too late, in my opinion. I think we're way beyond. I had talked to some people in Springfield and talked about what they had done. They had done this months in advance to their opening. I mean, months. Really. I mean, June 1st is going to be gone. You talk about parking lot B or C. When we were in that conversation with Encore, Councilor Capone and I, Encore had stressed that they didn't want people to drive to Lot A and to realize that Lot A was full, so now they got to come back up north, up Broadway, and go to Lot B, which is the Evergreen lot, or go to another lot, because I had talked about what happens at the ferry that I take down to Nantucket, and they have multiple lots, and how that whole entire process works. And they had stressed that, Council Capone can attest to that fact, that Lot B and C wasn't really what they were hoping for, because once you got to Lot A, it was too late. Now you have a huge traffic jam going back up the northbound side of 99. So Councilor Capone and I have been working on this for a long time, and to see that, I agree with Councilor Matusky, this is a good, or Councilor Napolitano, this is a good start. But this honestly should have been implemented like 2.5 years ago, or 2 years ago, and been worked on. As you said, a building comes down, you have a little bit more parking opening, something else changes, you continue to tweak this and use this as the guideline for what we were going to do in the perimeter of the casino. And that seems like none of that has happened. And to be honest with you, I think we're too late as it is. I really do. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, guys, ladies and gentlemen, but I think we are in for a rude awakening on June 24th, or June 23rd when this opens.
Well, to your point, Counselor, again, when you talk about trying to address the issue 2 years ago, I mean, the landscape changed every 3 months from 2 years ago.
I agree with you,
And it's going to change before our next meeting.
But I think if we had used this as the template
We can't
to-
address these issues until they become issues.
But-
And I do take exception to the fact that Church Street was mentioned. We were up here several times with several engineers who called what was things that were proposed unsafe conditions, but that's a matter for another day.
But it's still nothing has been changed.
I know it hasn't changed because engineers wouldn't sign off on it.
Okay, I respectfully disagree. But okay. I mean, I agree they won't sign off on it, but we got to come up with some solution.
The topic right now is the casino parking.
I think one of the things that, planning ahead, our first phase of this as a police department, community, as the mayor, we had 2,500 workers coming to our town. Every single day, 2 shifts a day. That was our first focus. We had to get those workers in, get them out, and move traffic on 99. So that was the centerpiece of at the beginning of this project. We had to address that. Because if we didn't address that, the residents down there would have been very upset. It was a lot of moving parts down there at the beginning. So now that the workforce is kind of cutting down a little bit, and now that's got a lot of our focus. And, going back to football days, right? Every plan can go either way. You try to plan for the best you can, anticipate. We're anticipating, with the help of all the things that we've got moving parts going, that it's going to work. Well, that's what we're praying for. If we see an area that needs to be adjusted, we can adjust it. We can adjust things on go. We're going to have a separate command post just for things. So it's just not 911. We got separate command posts. We're going to have all kinds of moving parts to make sure that one's part of the city. And this isn't just for opening week. I mean, we're talking, the manpower is going to last for after the opening week, and then can get the flow of how the traffic's going to be, where the parking's going to be. The first 6 months is going to be crazy. Then it will level off. That's what the experts are saying every meeting we talk to. 6 months, yeah, it's going to be full court press, come at you. But then we'll see when it levels off. Is it going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night that we have to adjust? So we have to be able to adjust with some things.
Sergeant, and to your point, Sergeant, to say that the workforce is declining, it's actually ramping up, because you went from 2,500 employees down there to now having 5,000 or 6,000 employees down there. So you're actually doubling the workforce down there to be.
It's different stages.
Plus that's just doubling the employment plus guests, plus the 1,000 plus guests that they're going to be staying there. So,
but now we have the parking lot.
I just
built for
two
those.
quick last question. Is there minutes to the meetings that you continuously that the administration's talking about that we the city council can?
Sorry, one more time.
Is there minutes to those meetings that you guys have been having that we can request so that we can bring ourselves up to date on these meetings before this master plan gets rolled out on June 1st? Is there somewhere that we can request, like, Councilor DePiero had recommended tonight that I request the minutes to the School Finance Commission so that I can bring myself up to those meetings. Are there minutes to those meetings somewhere that I can request so that I can, or any member of the City Council can bring themselves up to date on where these conversations have been going so that we can be informed to the best of our ability leading up to the master plan being unraveled? And before you answer that, Mr. O'Donnell, to the President, President Del Sol appointed 2 members to the committee to work with the administration was suggested last time we talked about this. Has there been any more movement on the appointment of 2 members to work with the administration on traffic, on this master plan?
I would, if you want me to pick them?
You were supposed to pick them last time to work with the administration. I thought that was one of the recommendations that we had made, that we would pick 2 members of the City Council to work with the administration, and that you were going to pick those 2 members, Mr. President. And I thought just picking and then they could attend those meetings on behalf of the City Council.
Any meeting they have, you'll attend.
We would attend. Whoever the 2 members would be would attend. And I thought we should have been a month ahead of that at this point. And I don't know if, but that Mr. President, that's not tonight. You can do that in the future days. I understand completely. Mr. O'Donnell, back to your point. I'm sorry.
Okay. We don't keep formal minutes, but I know everyone keeps notes, so we certainly could come up with a summary of the last 2 meetings that we had and provide it to the council.
What would be reasonable to expect that we could get those within 2 weeks or a month, or what do you think is?
Oh, I wouldn't think it would take less than 2 weeks, I think. Because, I mean, between our emails and our conversations and everything, it's at hand. It's just a matter of formulating it.
Would you be able to give those to us in an email format, or how would you want to present those to us?
Yeah, we can scan it and give it the email form and put hard copies in
so that I'm not even going to make amend, whenever you're able to do that, if you can do that for us.
We can do both. That's
I won't make that a part of any motion, but whenever you can provide those to us, we'd appreciate, just so that we can bring ourselves up to date. I'm not trying to be hard, but people are asking me this.
No, we'll start compiling it tomorrow. It won't be, that's not too tall an order.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have no more speakers? Councilor Florio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My recommendation is that anything to do with traffic should be in the traffic committee. So that's why we have a traffic committee. Not because it's a waste of time, and I don't want to put it that way. You just spend an hour here. So any concerns we have, send it to the traffic committee and have the traffic committee invite us to go to their committee. Well, it's whoever wants to go to it. It should be an open meeting that whoever wants to go to these committee meetings. We should all get invited, every one of us. If
These
we're
meetings
interested. Counselor.
Councilor Florio has the floor, please. This should be the last speaker.
I understand you want 2 people that have to go mandatory, but we should all, when this comes up, we should all get an invitation because we're all interested in
Correct.
it, not just those 2 people. We all represent the city. It's a problem. It should be in the traffic committee, not on the council agenda. We have 50 things that we have to take care of. We have to take care of business here. And this is business, it's important.
Correct.
I'm not saying it's not, but it should be in front of the traffic. The traffic committee, you invite us and we come there, not in this chambers as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
So if I can get this right, so traffic commission is separate from what we're doing here, folks. So if I hold the traffic commission meeting, it's for things that you put forward, and I discuss handicap, I discuss one-sided parking, it's different. So what we're doing now is we get all the department heads, we get the chief, we get community development, we get engineering, we get the mayor's office, and we sit down. That's the type of meetings that we have. So it's not a traffic meeting, it's management meeting that we go over and discuss, and we talk ideas, and we come up with plans, and
That's all well and good.
so that's the difference. So I was just a little confused
No,
when
thank you.
saying
And-
traffic commission.
Yes, and I agree with that. What I'm saying is, when you're having these meetings, because it was requested for 2 people to be picked, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, because not all of us can always come to all meetings. But when you have the meeting in regards to the 24 hours a day park or anything to do with the casino, and you meet with the engineers, please send us an email, because I might be interested in coming. And I might ask the question there, instead of being on this floor. We have so much business to take care of, and here it is, 8:45, and we haven't taken care of business. We've talked about traffic for what? 45 minutes, 1 hour?
That's my 8-hour day though, right there. I talk traffic 8 hours a day.
I understand, and we appreciate you coming here, believe me. But what I'm saying, it should be a separate, something should be a separate issue, and this definitely should be a separate issue. So,
agree
and
with
I
that.
understand everybody's
Okay.
concerned. We're all concerned, so.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you very much. What's your pleasure on this piece? Thank you, gentlemen. Counsel McLaughlin.
President, I would make a motion, I'd make a motion that we request a committee of the whole meeting in May so that we can bring this back before us and look at the study or the engineering reports that we're waiting for from the engineers that they're in the process of hiring so that we can get an in-depth discussion. Councilor DeFlorio talks about the traffic commission. These are meetings that are happening during the day, during day work hours. These meetings are happening. They're not happening at 6 o'clock at a traffic commission meeting. So that's why they're more difficult for us to be able to attend. That's, I think, a committee of the whole. I know we have a representative in Clerk Cornelio who does a great job at being able to communicate or relay messages for us, but I think that we really need to stay on top of this. And I think making a committee of the whole in May for everybody to come back to the table is very reasonable at this point. So I make a motion that we request a committee of the whole for May, beginning of May, to come back to the table.
Second.
On the motion, Counsel Capone.
I agree that we need to do something. I'm wondering if we might be able to dovetail the two things with the presentation that we were talking about with Encore Boston Harbor, because I think that there are so many different avenues for traffic flow. It is going to be a huge issue. But they've got waterways, they've got, they're talking about different ways to cut off traffic, to open flow to other areas. So if we could kind of coordinate those two dates at the same time, rather than coming up here twice on it, we could do it all once,
Right.
get their presentation, and then from there, ask whatever questions we have. But that has to that can't happen 2 weeks before the opening.
Right. Why don't we lay this
so-
over? I'm just trying to lay it over until we find out when their plan is complete.
Yeah.
Or half complete. Come to us, tell us when it's ready. We have a meeting on that, and that's all we're coming for, is a meeting of the whole.
Yeah,
Is that one subject?
I think that's a good suggestion, Mr. President.
But Counsel, you have, committee of the whole and date to be determined, because we don't have the plan yet of the traffic plan.
There was a motion made and seconded for committee of the whole.
There's a motion made, committee of the whole, and seconded.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
The ayes.
Ayes have it. Read number 2 on the agenda, please.
If we could, please take item number 10. Suspend the rules, take item number 10.
All in favor to take 10? All opposed? The ayes have it. Please read number 10 on the agenda, please.
Item number 10, Mr. President, is an order offered by Councilors John Hanlon, Anthony DePiero, Richard J. Delasola Jr., Stephen Simonelli, and Rosa DeFlorio, in order to request approval from the state legislature to amend Section 2-8A of the city charter, appointments of the city council.
Councilor Hanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very interested in this piece because of the fact that I held a position. And I just want to say something that we had someone talking about it this evening, too. And I just want to point out that we've had city clerks that I know of since 1926. And that's almost 100 years. We've never, ever, ever, ever had a problem with a city clerk. No one has questioned them, no one has brought them to committees to explain this, to explain that, never been a court action, nothing, and it's been all good all the time. We have truly been blessed by the amount of people that have taken this office, because it's a big, big thing to do, you know? And now what we're talking about is doing something that's going to be on a case-by-case appointment, not for this particular clerk, but for any clerks to come along. They serve 5 years, and then if you want to put them back in, you can have them in for 5 years. We have, the order that's before us now is just like the order that was passed in Revere, just done, and it's not the first community to do it. And today, it's a lot different from it was even going back as 5 years ago, because you just can't walk into a city clerk's position anymore. I know that Kevin Dunn, who I knew personally, was our city clerk, and he served in the council for a great number of years. I served on the council for 22 years before I became the clerk, and that was because I knew a lot about it, and I worked with Kevin, used to go to his house, used to go to, after the meetings and everything, we talked, so I knew a lot about it. Then we had Michael, not Michael, yeah. Who was the next one? Michael Matarazzo. Michael Matarazzo was my assistant clerk. And so he, at first it was Jimmy Marchant, who served for a long time. Then it was Mike Matarazzo. And he dug into everything, and he researched and researched and researched. And today, we're also going to be able to say that the new council, not including the one that's in here, will be able to reappoint it like every 5 years. And what I also wanted to say is that, you know, can a person come off the street and be a city clerk? Do they have to know what they have to know? And does anybody know here that a town clerk, city clerk, or a municipal clerk is mentioned in the Massachusetts General Laws over 2,000 times? That's the work that they have to do. And it says the city clerk shall, and that means they shall do it. We haven't had the opportunity to do all 2,000 things, but they're there in case we have to do them. So the point I mentioned is that, you know, longevity on a city clerk is an important thing to have. I think our clerk should deserve a long term, and it ends with him, because after that it'll be 5-year appointments. So I'm going to just trying to get this thing passed, and I want to get it passed on favorable order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I have 6 speakers total. Next speaker is Councilor Matusky, and then Capone.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, it's kind of unfair to have this before us tonight. It says right here, Chapter 2-8, that the city clerk shall serve for a 5-year term. And at that point, he'll get reappointed by whoever the council members are. I've served with this man in the city council. I know him to be a very respectful person. But the truth of the matter is, I like the idea of voting for a city clerk every 5 years. And he's a gentleman, he's got a great family, he cares about this community. And I'm not a sponsor of this piece. And, you know, it puts a person like me who actually likes the city clerk, and I go back just like Mr. Hanlon. I can tell you a quick story about Kevin Dunn. Mr. Paul Ellard was an alderman at one point. He became the assistant city clerk. Of course, Mr. Kevin Dunn never retired, and Paul Ellard passed on, but then Mr. Hanlon came in. Then he became mayor. And then Mr. Matarazzo came in. But the truth of the matter, I'm going to give you a brief story on Mr. Kevin Dunn. I was 19 years old, I ran for office, and I didn't know you were supposed to bring your nomination papers from one floor to the next. After they get approved by the Register of Voters office, you bring them up to the city clerks, or bring them down to the city clerks. Well, I just came home from work at 3:30, and my doorbell rings. It was Kevin Dunn. He says, "Wayne, you only got 28 minutes to get to City Hall to bring your papers." I think I told the story once here. But this is, you know, and I brought them. I said, "What are you talking about?" I put my signatures in. He says, "Oh, no, you have to bring them to the clerk's office." If he never did that, I wouldn't be here today. That is the truth. So, you know, I have a lot of respect for city clerks. We elect our police chief every 3 years. We make a decision. That's a very important position, as well as the city clerk's job is. Mr. Burley, our clerk of the committees, is voted on every 2 years. Our legislative aide is voted on more or less every election cycle. You know, I don't have a problem with our present city clerk. I think he's a wonderful young man. I think he's going to improve in 5 years, and I'll vote for him again if I'm able to be here. But, you know, a lifetime tenure is something that, he's only a young man, by the way. He's 30, I would guess he's 33 years old. Am I right? Exactly? I was in my prime at 33. I had 13 years in the city council. But anyway, I like this guy, and he does a good job. And I like Mr. Ragucci being down there, former mayor. There's a lot of intelligence between the two of them. Mr. Matarazzo, I was sorry to see him leave. I would have voted for sure for him to be renewed. And I hope he's enjoying his retirement, but truth of the matter is, this is not, my vote here tonight will not be a reflection on present city clerk and our clerk of the council, because I like him. I think he's a nice guy, and he does a good job, and I don't know where he gets his energy, but I like the every 5-year renewal contract that's in the charter, and I'm going to stick with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Capone, and then Councilor Napolitano.
Thank you, Mr. President. We all know that the city clerk's job is a huge job, and there's a big learning curve with that job. And, so you can understand why there's the desire to have consistency and longevity. But I'm not a big fan of lifetime tenure either, but I do have to say that our current clerk, despite the fact that I'm not supporting it, I want to give our clerk his due. This is a young man who works very hard. He puts in time, hours, evenings, weekends. I'm texting him, emailing him all the time. If you ask him to do something, it's not, oh, I'll get to it. It's, okay, what do you need? And he does it right away.
Absolutely.
Personally, I don't know how he does it. But the reality is, I
Single.
think he's doing a great job. And the stuff that he still has to get a handle on, because it is a huge responsibility, he really puts the time and effort into it. I've seen him put time and effort into learning his craft, learning the office. He deserves ultimate praise for that. But with all the accolades, that I can't say enough good things about you and the job you do, and I personally appreciate all the time and effort that I take up from you. The reality is, I can't do a lifetime tenure. I think it's a mistake. I think you lose accountability. You keep doing the job you're doing. I'm here. You'll be getting renewed by me as well. So thank you again. I did want to publicly say, although I cannot support the life tenure, it is not a reflection of our clerk. He works very hard and very diligently, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor Napolitano, and then Councilor Florio.
Thank you. I concur with the previous speakers. Councilman Hamlin pointed out some very key things here. The importance of the position. Councilman Matusky brings up the important issue, years of experience, that leading up to being able to do that experience. Councilor Capone brings up learning curve. Again, this is how you develop. I am not opposed to much of this, but personally, I think there's two questions here. There's a question of tenure, and there's the question of how the city clerk is appointed, which our current charter and rules are not clear on. I think these two issues need to be separated. That would be my recommendation. As far as the tenure goes, and again, I'll tell you the same exact conversation I had with our city clerk this week. I can't support tenure at this point. It does not mean that it isn't something I would consider down the road. But to offer a lifetime position to someone in their first term in office, many of us work the private sector. What you need to do to be able to attain those same positions, both time, experience, and compensation, is much more drawn out. And I got to say, I've worked with the city clerk closer than anybody else in this room, than I have with anybody else in this room over the past year. And I got to say, it meant a very successful year as council president. I learned a lot, and I equally imparted a lot. But there's still steps in management that need to be attained, and that comes with experience. That experience just further embraces the importance of the duties of that position. I think it's important that we do have a position, and if there's any concerns about our current clerk being reappointed, I will speak on behalf. Unless something of some form of malfeasance was the case, which I wouldn't foresee, I'll support that. I don't see him not being elected, but not for tenure, not for lifetime, this soon into the job. Through the chair, Mr. Clerk, how long have you actually been in the position as city clerk?
Almost 2 years.
Almost
And
2 years.
as assistant.
Almost 2 years. Now, that's something that you need to consider when you're giving somebody a lifetime job. The problem we have as elected officials is that we run the perception that we take care of our own. This reinforces that, and I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm just not. So I'm going to motion that we separate the two pieces, the tenure from the appointment of how the clerk is renewed, because right now it's not clear. This states that the city council at the 5 years will make the decision to renew or not. But a vote would be made, and it does not involve having an advertising for new candidates. It doesn't involve any of that. Currently, the way the rules are set up, that could be the potential issue. We don't want to see that. We've got a good man who's doing a hell of a job, pardon my language, and I do want to see him continue to stay in that job. And that's why I'll support the idea of tenure down the road, not this soon. It's too soon, and more development needs to be done along the areas that, that you don't, the strengths you don't gain being in this part of the branch. So my motion is we divide the two pieces and then take them separately.
Okay. I have other speakers on the motion. Well, I get Councilor Floyd next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, being a city clerk, you have to go through a lot of classes. Everybody over here is saying what a great job he's doing. They're going to vote for him again. I don't know. Everybody has a crystal ball here. You all going to be here in 5 years? I don't know if I'm going to be here in 5 years. So the point is, we're not trying to take care of our own. We're not trying to do something that's illegal, okay? You're going to classes. You're taking all this time, okay? If it wasn't for our clerk, I tell you, these meetings wouldn't even exist, okay, for the work that he does for us. We call him up. We ask him to do work for ordinance. We call him up. He does a study for us. This isn't about the person. It's about the position. As Councilor Hanlon said, all these years in this city, have we ever had a problem with a city clerk? And does a lifetime mean you're going to have a lifetime? No. If our city clerk doesn't do a good job, we can vote to let him go.
Correct.
There's nothing there that says it's a lifetime, okay? All it is, he's just not going to come in front of us every 5 years to be appointed. But if he doesn't do the right job, he's going to be out of here. And I have no problem saying that. As a mother of 5 kids, my kids are older than him. So I have no problem saying, Sergio, sorry, see you later. And he knows that. So obviously, I'm one of the sponsors in this, and that was the reason why I sponsored it, because it takes the politics out of it. All right, so I'm in favor, and I hope my colleagues reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor DePiero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To echo some of what Councilor DeFlorio said, as a sponsor, the process now is very unclear. How do we reappoint in 5 years? And to me, it's you take someone who's doing an exceptional job and you say, keep up the good work, but we're going to actively seek someone that might be better than you. How is that fair? What incentive is that? What kind of work environment is that? This isn't taking care of one of our own. This is telling someone, keep up the great work, and we want to keep you around. As my colleagues said about performance, if the clerk is not performing, remove him with due cause at that point. This doesn't take care of one of our own, like I says. It says, keep up the great work. I'm voting in favor of this tonight. I seconded Councilor Hanlon's motion. I say let's take the vote. If it does fail, I ask the prevailing side to then reconsider, and then we'll split the piece. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I have Councilor McLaughlin. And then Councilor Marchese.
I'm not going to belabor this any longer, but again, to echo the comments of some of my colleagues that have said that our city clerk has done an unbelievable job, is to say the least. Sergio does not care if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Tuesday. It's all the same to Sergio. He's a phone call away for any one of us to be able to pick up the phone. I'll be honest, one of the toughest votes I've taken, because I understand both sides of this issue. I can understand the reason to have a 5-year reappointment, but I can also understand the side that if we have a city clerk who's doing an unbelievable job, as we do, why are we going to say to him in 5 years from now, you did a great job for 5 years, but we're going to skip over you, we're going to move forward in the process. It's a very difficult position to be in, because the individual is sitting before us. He's an individual we're going to call on tonight, tomorrow, and the rest of the year to be able to help us. So it's a very unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in, because, to be truthful, maybe the Charter Commission didn't carefully do their homework and look at the issues as what they should have been doing. But what I do want to touch base on is something else that has bothered me for a few weeks, and that is a story that was written about our city clerk a few weeks ago in one of the local newspapers. Our city clerk has, as I said, and many of colleagues have said, does an unbelievable job and is always accessible. And to read the article that I read a few weeks ago was insulting to not only myself, my supporters, my friends, my family. We have an unbelievable city clerk who is doing a great job and doesn't deserve the type of treatment that he was given in one of the local newspapers a few weeks ago. So on behalf of my residents, Mr. Clerk, I want to apologize for the treatment that you had to receive and undertake to you and your family. And thank you for the job that you're doing every day for our city.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Marchese.
Very quick. First of all, I understand why the charter, changed this. I don't understand that. That was one of the bad things as far as also not adding term limits, which we all voted down today. So we obviously don't care about the length of time here that someone can stay in a seat. In 2 years, Mr. Canelio has surpassed my expectations on him, and I support him 100%. And while I will support him 100% tonight, he's young enough. Let him stay. I want to know somebody when I come into my wheelchair.
He'll push you. And the last, Councilor Marchese? Last but not least, Councilor McKinnon.
Last but not least, I like that. Thank you, Mr. President. To Mr. Canelio, you've done a great job. Every time I've ever called you, you've been Johnny on the spot, so I really can't say anything about your performance other than it's been wonderful, it's been great. I'm still undecided right now. I'm undecided, so I think
You have
when I'm
4
going
minutes.
I get 4 minutes to decide. So, and I'm going to speak for those 4 minutes now since you brought that up so elegantly, Mr. President. So, this is a difficult position to be in, and I realize that. So, but that's what they pay us for, to do the difficulty of the city, we'll say. So, I'm still undecided as of yet, so.
We have Councilor Hanlon
Thank you for
next.
being our, thank you, hold on now. Thank you for being our city clerk, and I can see you being it for a lot more periods of time here, so, thank you.
Councilor Simonelli, and then Councilor Hanlon. Sorry, Simonelli, and then
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. Chairman.
Napolitano, and then Councilor Hanlon.
Well, why change this? It works well enough. It's better to work with somebody that you know than somebody that you don't know. You work very hard for all of us here in City Council in the city of Everett. And you're my personal friend. And you're doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
Councilor. Councilor Napolitano, and then Councilor Hanlon.
Thank you. Again, this is not, we dance around we're talking about the office, not the person. But then we all make personal observations about the person holding that office. Okay, which is it? Now, and it is hard to do it because he is doing a good job. Okay, and again, I've made that quite clear. I think he's done an exemplary job. And that's why I said that I will support this. I would support this down the road. But I don't think after 2 years, there's still more to learn. As good as the position is, what's the incentive to do better if you've given somebody a lifetime position after 2 years? This is about the position. This could be any individual. And, you make it sound real easy. Well, if he's not doing the job, we'll just get rid of him. Well, it doesn't work that way. Vacancy occurs by death, resignation, retirement, or removal from office by the city council, which shall be just for just cause. Determine just cause. You've got 11 different ideas of what that could potentially mean. So just step away, separate the two. Separating the two doesn't change anything. Separating the two still allows you to send the question of tenure to the State House, if that's what you desire to do. At the same time, clear up the situation of how they're appointed now by separating the other second half and putting the process in place. So this way here, you're covering both bases. I don't see this council not reappointing him at the end of this term. Let's revisit the issue again after that. Because now we're talking about someone with not 2 years' experience, we're talking about someone with 10 years' experience. But again, My motion was to separate them, and for that reason, you still accomplish the same thing that every one of you wants. One, you want to be able to send it through to tenure, you're still able to do that, but we can address the renewal portion now. That was my motion.
Second the motion. Council.
Call favorable action.
I'm seconding Council.
Council,
Yeah, I didn't call for the question.
he had to
so-
mention, are you done, Councilman Napolitano?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hanlon has the floor. John?
I just wanted to point out some of the things that our city clerk has done that we're just taking for granted and everything, but things that he's really done that's important. If you look at your calendar and you see how these things are numbered, on what I'm looking at now is C0034-19. We never had that before. We had 1 through 25 or whatever it was, and when the meeting was over, that was it. You wanted to find it, you had to go look for it. If we wanted to look up something that happened quite some time ago, we could look at, C007-19. That's the seventh thing that we worked on this year, and he would be able to find it for us. So that's an important thing that has to happen. He's completely computerized his office. I mean, everybody down there has a computer. There's things that he does for the public also we have to consider, not just things that he does for the city council. The public comes in, they come in, they do what they want, they get out, and there's no trouble at all. There's never any backup down there. He has created, as we now know, he has standards for all of our people that are having licenses or permits. He has a standard set of operations that go on. It makes it very easy and very knowledgeable for us to just go and look at those things. We now know what's going on, And he has a new process of licensing, as we see with people that are coming up here for licenses to get, new car lots or new repair shops and so on and so forth. You ask him about any one of those people, and he'll tell you. We have one on here. We haven't got to it yet tonight. And I said, "This is a new guy coming in." But it's the same business. Well, that's a different story. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't talk to him. But he knows these things off the top of his head. He also has now established the voting office is in his office. He's a member of that voting group. So that's a new thing he's taken over. So, and that's something we didn't ask him to do. He just did it, And then another thing we have to think about too is that the council has a lot of events that we do now. We go out and we do a lot of events. And who's the one that does all the backup for that? City clerk and the assistant and the clerk of committees. They do all that stuff for us, But we go down there and we have things that we do for the public, and we get great accolades for it. But they're the guys that set it up, and Sergio is one of them. So, and we all talk about, we know that he's doing his job. Well, he is doing his job. And we shouldn't just look that over and say, well, when he comes back in 2 years, if he's doing his job, of course he's going to be doing his job. He'll be lucky if he's not out of here in 40 years. Because, once you get in, you stay in. So that's why I'm just trying to say that the position deserves to have a position of life tenure. And he's the guy, he's already served, we know he can serve, so I'm going to vote for him to do that anyway. And so thank you. And I'll call for the question then.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the motion to split is the first motion. If that fails, then the motion is to act on the item as is.
So the motion was to split 1 and 2, correct?
Motion is to split. You have to split it first and see if they agree to split it, and then vote on the split pieces. How we gonna do it? So, and that you can do by, there's two parts to this piece. They're dividing the question. The motion was to divide the question.
Could you explain that briefly?
Yes, the top motion, which is sections 1 and 2, relate. I'm uncomfortable talking about my own tenure. It's about my life tenure. B is relative to the city clerk and assistant city clerk's tenure, which is the current 5 years, but will also allow a renewal process. So there were statements made that currently you can renew me after 5 years. That's incorrect. At the end of 5 years, I cannot get renewed. You would have to advertise the position. You would have to, so there isn't the same process as current department heads like Ms. Mahir and the rest of the department heads. At the end of 5 years, my term is up, and you can just say goodbye. And there is no renewal process. Or you can say, oh, maybe we'll take you, and then we're going to advertise in the paper and see who's better. So there is no renewal process currently. This defines a renewal process, which is in accordance with every other department head, except for myself and your assistant city clerk. That's what the difference is. So they're dividing the question so that we can vote for Part A, which is life tenure, and then Part B, which is the renewal process. That's called dividing the question. You're gonna, there is an existing 5-year, but no renewal process. So the B is, so this is to divide. It's gonna be an up and down vote. He's gonna call yay if you'd like to divide the question, no. If it says no, then you vote as is. If it's yes, then you'll vote on the two pieces separately by roll call vote. Does that make sense? The motion's on the table. It's just a voice vote unless you're in question of the vote, Mr. President.
So if anybody understands it,
Yes would divide the question, no wouldn't. If you divide it, then we'll take the two votes. If no, then you're going to take the one vote.
go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, if it's no, then
Just
one
so
vote
I
will
can
be
ask this
unfavorable.
question.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President. The difference between the city clerk and other department heads, the city council does not appoint them. That's number one. I just want you to be aware of that.
Correct.
And those department heads, generally speaking, if they do a good job, whoever the mayor is that comes in will keep them. But it's I don't know how many years I've been up here, when a new mayor comes in, I mean, you're talking 75, 80% of these department heads are gone. There's no lifetime or anything like close to that for department heads. I just want to make clear on that. I am in favor of renewal every 5 years. And if this division thing, of course we're going to keep the city clerk that's in office every 5 years. But if he's done the good job that, supposedly doing here. But I'm against life tenure, so I just want to let you be aware of that. So if we divide it, we're accepting the 5-year renewal?
No.
Is that it?
If you divide it, you're going to take two separate votes, one for life tenure or one for the 5-year.
So which one are we taking first?
You're going to ask if you're going to divide it.
I'm going to ask for now if you want to divide it.
No, it's only life, yeah. So are you in favor of the 5-year? Are you in favor of dividing or not? It's aye or nay.
Are you in favor to divide this piece here?
No.
It's a voice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote. Thank you. This is to divide,
This is just to divide.
just to divide the piece that we
Counsel
have right
Capone.
now.
Yes.
Counsel DeFlorio.
No.
Counsel DePiero.
No.
Counsel Hanlon. No. Counsel Marchese.
No.
Counsel Matusky.
Yes.
Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel Simonelli.
No.
Counsel Napolitano. Yes. And President Della Sola.
No.
That would be 5 yeas, 6 nays. Favorable action is in front of you as a whole piece, both parts. For favorable action, Counsel Capone.
No.
Counsellor DeFlorio.
Yes.
Counsel DePiero.
Yes.
Counsellor Hanlon. Yes. Counsel Marchese.
Yes.
Counsel Matusky.
No.
Counsel McKinnon.
No.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel Simonelli.
Yes.
Counsel Napolitano. Counsel Della Sola.
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays.
Reconsider it. We reconsider that. Need a second on it, though.
All in favor? We're going to vote on reconsidering. Roll call vote again.
Counsel Capone.
Yes.
Counsel
What
DeFlorio.
do you vote on?
Bringing back the piece. By reconsidering, you're going to bring back the piece, and then you can change whatever motion you feel. Counsel DeFlorio. No. Counsel DePiero. No. Counsel Hanlon. No. Counsel Marchese.
No.
Counsel Matusky.
No.
Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
No.
Counsel Simonelli.
No.
Counsel Napolitano.
Yes.
Counsel Della Sola.
No.
3 yeas, 8 nays. Reconsideration is failed. Revert to the regular order of business.
Back to business, regular business. Could you please read number
Item number
no,
2.
2, correct.
Item number 2, Mr. President, is a petition offered by Council Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president, that the Everett City Council hereby approves a new mechanical repair license for Christian Auto Repair at
Councilor.
101 Parish Street. This is a current existing business. This is a new owner. I would recommend that they be called before the Committee of Business and Community Business Development.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is this where the art studio was?
It's the place in back.
In the back.
There's
Now-
a Hernandez Auto right now, and I believe they sold it, and this is a same location, new person.
Well, see, yeah, I just want to mention to the clerk and to the president that this neighborhood is changing dramatically over the next couple of years with Market Forge going to be developed. You know, it was an art studio on the top floors, most of us know, there was book signings and so forth there. And I'm not so sure, and I only live around the corner there, that, you know, I'd like to meet this gentleman, have him come up here. I know there's an auto concern there right now. I know the landlord, he seems like a reasonable person. But, you know, when you have tow trucks going by your house, you know, and so forth like this,
Tough.
you know, it's not a pleasant thing. It really isn't. Putting up with everything else in that neighborhood. It's calmed down a lot, and I'm not so sure I'm going to vote in favor of this. So I'd like to be invited to, is that going to the licensing? Yes. I want to be invited to that. Mr. President, I'd
Yes.
like to be invited to that meeting where I live around the corner, and as I said, I want them to understand that, you know, that this is a Renaissance neighborhood. It's coming along very nicely. Of course, you got Richie's Warehouse next door. I know the area very well, so just make sure I'm invited to this meeting so I get to know who this man is. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor.
I move to refer it to Business Community Development and invite the good councilor.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to number 3 on the agenda.
Item number 3. It's a petition offered by Council Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president. The Everett City Council hereby approves a new open-air parking lot license for affordable auto at 1739 Revere Beach Parkway. Same thing, I would refer this
Mr.
to.
Chairman, refer to
Councilman
licensing
Napolitano.
committee.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Last year,
Mr. Chairman, items number 4, 5, and 6 were just in a committee earlier today. I don't believe we have a report on them.
I have information on 4 was asked to refer back to sponsor. The other 2 are staying in committee. We don't need action on that, so only 4 we need
All
action.
right, so on a motion that item 5 and 6 remaining, actually, they never came out of committee, right?
Correct, that's why I said no action necessary.
No
Just
action.
4 needs
So
action.
refer item number 4 back to sponsor.
Second.
I need to read it first.
You got to read it first, Councilor.
All right.
Just
problem.
making sure. Item number 4, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Council Michael J. McLaughlin that is honor the mayor appear at the next Government Operations Public Safety Committee meeting to discuss what can be done on Fridays in regards to public safety issues when City Hall is closed. The motion was obviously to refer back to sponsor. You got the answer.
Second.
Committee.
Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. Back to sponsor.
5 and 6, no action necessary, so it would be on 7.
Read number 7, please.
Item number 7. This is a Committee on Ways and Means report. Item 7 is a resolution offered by Councilor Wayne A. Matusky and Councilor Napolitano that a representative from the Water Billing Department appear to answer questions about the new monthly water bills and change from quarterly to monthly. The committee recommended to place this item on file.
Motion to expect the committee report.
Yep, before we do that,
Before we do it, talk to the
I
sponsors.
learned something new today. So since this wasn't enough, we didn't have the official meeting. The way to take this out is to call something, it's called discharge a committee. The motion is to discharge a committee, take it out, and then you can place it on file. It's in
I'll make a
Robert's
motion
rules, so.
to discharge it
something
from
new.
the committee
Second.
as a member of that committee.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Now you can place it on file if you like.
Mr. President, I just
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. St. Louis for appearing and Mr. Demus for explaining the new water procedures on quarterly billing. They now have a water department specialist in the collector's office. There was a new company that was sending these bills out in a 33-day thing. They're no longer going to do that. Councilman McKinnon had called me the day before, and there was a little miscommunication on when this meeting was actually going to be held, but Councilman Simonelli was attending and co-sponsor Napolitano. So with that, I want to thank, the quarterly bills might be just a good thing, and I learned a lot about the billing process, and I want to thank those gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Napolitano.
Thank you.
And then Councilor McKinnon.
Yes, I mean, both Mr. St. Louis and Mr. Demas came up and provided us with a great deal of information. It may have given a lot of the people the impression, the transition, that the city had dropped the ball, but it didn't really. First of all, yeah, they were overwhelmed by the number of people that came to City Hall to pay the bills all at once. As a result, they've cross-trained a number of people in City Hall to be able to anticipate the next wave. They've also relocated the person from Public Works up to City Hall who you would go to with a problem with your water bill. It didn't make sense for someone coming up, who would normally come up to City Hall to question the bill, to have to be told to go somewhere else. So now that person is working up here right now. And as far as the issue regarding late payments that some of our residents were taking, that was a result of the mistake that Councilman Matusky had mentioned that was done by the two vendors that the city uses to print those bills. We got assurances from Mr. Demas that any unnecessary charges as a result of that error would be reversed and credited. So I think we felt very confident that they're on top of that. They took steps. Additionally, they've also added an automatic payment system. So now if you want to pay your water bill, you can set it up so that water bill's paid on a monthly basis from your credit card or your checking account. They have already launched that program. So they've taken quite a number of steps based on just the first 2 weeks of transition to the monthly water bills to ensure that everything moves in a smooth progression from this point on. And I'm quite confident that that's exactly what will happen. Again, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll watch what's going on and encourage our residents to let us know if they still have questions about the water bill. But they can also call the 311 to get additional information if there's a question regarding their water bill. So on that, I would motion that this be placed on file and then return back to sponsor.
Okay. On that motion, I got Councilor McKinnon.
Yeah, I would have liked to have been there at this meeting, but I was misinformed. I thought that I received an email that stated that Mr. Laverty was not going to be in attendance, so that's why I was not in attendance. But I didn't check my subsequent emails after that fact, and knowing that Mr. St. Louis and Mr. Demas were going to be here to give us the presentation that they did, Mr. President. So with that being said, they did a great job. They handled it well, and I'd like to get this information out once again to anybody that needs it in the city for the water bills and stuff like that. It was a good meeting, and it should be placed on file. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
The motion to place on file and refer back to sponsor.
Okay. Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Item number 8, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilors Wayne Matusky and Stephen Simonelli that vetoes auto repair correct its operation. The committee recommended to refer this item back to sponsor.
Mr. President, on that motion, I'd just like to
Councilor Matusky?
thank you. Councilman Simonelli and I, he is the Ward 2 councilman, are very much thankful to our city clerk, who spent many occasions going down there to correct the situation. The man now has actually corrected some of his issues that he had. I spoke to several neighbors there. He's even plowed some snow on the street and assisted some of the elderly residents on the street. So Mr. Vito has changed his operation for the better of that neighborhood. So with that, I would like to thank the committee for their time in this matter, and Councilman Simonelli and I appreciate it, as well as the residents, and hopefully Mr. Vito will stay the good businessman that he is at this time. Thank you.
Councilor McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, on this, they came to some type of resolution in a courtroom setting. I hope that it does spill over into the neighborhood, so where it's actually, they're not coming back before us as they were before. If not, we will put this back on the calendar, and we will do what we have to do, the proper steps to take care of that problem once again. So just be forewarned that if that happens again, we will be bringing it back here before us. So
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. Clerk, can you read number 11 on the agenda,
Item number
please?
11, is, Mr. President, is an ordinance offered by Council Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president. An ordinance further documenting standardized procedures associated with licenses and permits issued under the authority of the City Council. Item number 11, if you're going to pass it, needs an amendment, which is attached on your desk. So, if you'd like to make the motion to amend it as presented by the clerk.
Which one is that? This one here?
Sure, the amendment is section, it's the mostly blank piece of paper. Section 8.2C5 is hereby amended by adding a new subsection D as follows. An inspection fee in accordance with section 12-303F2 and 12-303F3 of the revised ordinances.
Move we amended as read.
Second motion.
This is for enrollment.
Favorable action as amended?
Now that I found it.
Second, all, be a roll call vote?
Counsel Capone.
Yes.
Counsel DeFlorio.
Yes.
Counsel DePiero.
Council DePiero.
Counsel DePiero?
Counsel Hanlon.
Yes.
Counsel Matusky.
Yes.
Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel Napolitano. Counsel Simonelli.
Yes.
President Delasola.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays. You have enrolled the ordinance. As amended.
Can you read number 12 on the agenda, please?
Item number
12.
12. One moment. Item number 12, Mr. President, is an ordinance offered by Council Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president. An ordinance further documented the standardized procedures associated with lodging house licenses.
Favorable action on the item.
Counsel Capone.
Yes.
Counsel DeFlorio.
Yes.
Counsel DePiero.
Yes.
Counsel Hanlon.
Yes.
Counsel Matusky. Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel
Yes.
Napolitano. Counsel Simonelli.
Yes.
President Delasola.
Yes.
9 yeas, 0 nays. You have passed the order.
Clerk, can you read number 13 on the agenda?
As an ordinance offered by
Counsel Hanlon?
13, 14, 15, yes, not 16.
Yes. Thank you, Counsel.
15, I second that motion.
Okay. Items 13
14 and
and
15?
15. 13 is an ordinance offered by Council Richard J. Delasola Jr. as president. An ordinance updating the permit on or over the public way ordinance to use new standardized procedures for licensing issues, licenses issued by the City Council, excuse me. Item 14 is ordinance offered by Council Richard J. Delasola as president. An ordinance updating the garage license ordinance to use the new standardized procedures for licenses issued by the City Council. Item 15 is an ordinance updating the flammable products storage license ordinance to use the new standardized procedures for licensing issued by the City Council.
Favorable action.
Move favorable action that one vote be cast and that clerk be instructed to record accordingly.
Okay.
Can you say
Seconded.
that again fast?
Roll call vote, please.
Counsel Capone. Yes. Counsel DeFlorio. Yes. Counsel DePiero.
Yes.
Counsel Hanlon.
Yes.
Counsellor Matusky.
Yes.
Counsel McKinnon.
Yes.
Counsel McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counsel Napolitano.
Yes.
Counsel Simonelli.
Yes.
President Delasola.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays. You have passed the order.
Can you read number 16,
both of the
please?
orders.
Number 16?
Item
Counsel
16.
McKinnon.
Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilors Wayne A. Matusky, Michael Marchese, Stephen Simonelli, John Leo McKinnon, that the harbor master or the operator of the Alfred Street Bridge appear to explain the operation and plans for the expected increase in vessels visiting the Encore Resort.
Counsel McKinnon.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
These invites have been sent out by our clerk, Michael Mangan, and we're just waiting for them to show up. I thought they were going to show up to this meeting, but they will probably be at our next meeting on the 8th, so hopefully they all can make it at that point in time so that we can get some information that we need on that. Thank you on that.
Councilor Matusky.
Thank you, Mr. President. The mayor of Boston actually contacted Councilman McKinnon. He called him on the phone, and he knew I was involved, and he is more than happy to assist the city of Everett in this Alfred Street Bridge issue. You know, we talk about traffic and parking and everything else. That bridge alone causes more traffic backup than anything I've ever seen. Okay, so this is an important part of this casino. If that bridge goes up, say 20 times a day, just say, that's 20 minutes of whack. Can you imagine? Anyway, we're going to get some answers from the harbor master, which our legislative aide was helpful in getting the number to call, and I talked to the person in charge of bridges for the city of Boston, Mrs. Flaherty, was it? Yeah, Mrs. O'Flaherty. And Councilman McKinnon and I were on a conference call with her. So we're moving forward. This is a key part of this casino congestion. And not to mention the botched construction job that they did on fixing that bridge. And it's supposed to be done next month, next week, 2 weeks from now. Two lanes going in and out. But we've got to get this small little bridge under control. When all these boats are coming to visit the casino and the yacht clubs and everything else. It's very important, as you know, we all know. So we're going to lay this over for the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Next meeting. It was seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. For next meeting. Council, you read, clerk, you read number 19, please. 18.
There's an ordinance offered by Council Richard J. Della Sola, Jr. as president. An ordinance for a commercial passenger vessel license for businesses located inside the city of Everett be established.
Councilor Napolitano.
Okay, I'm not actually asked to hold this over because there were certain things about this that I wasn't comfortable with. Fortunately, working with the city solicitor's office, we were able to iron out some of these things. First of all, one of the misconceptions in this piece, and one of the concerns also by the Encore people, was that this was requesting licensing of any vessels coming to the casino. That's not, that doesn't limit to just their vessels. It also includes water taxi services and other vendors that would be utilizing and dropping people off at the dock. My concern in that area was that these businesses are already licensed through the state and the Coast Guard to be able to operate in the harbor, and in that respect, I didn't feel we had any jurisdiction on them. And since researching this out with the city solicitor's office, this is and the clerk's office, this was intended not to license those type of vehicles. Because think about it for a second. We're going to license a water taxi service to drop people off. We don't license Boston or Revere cabbies to drop people off in Everett. It's the same thing. And that was where I was concerned. This is not what this is. This is strictly a registration piece for the city clerk's office to be able to document the 4 Encore vessels that are going to be operating out of the facility. So in that respect, I'm going to recommend the following amendment. I'd like to remove the word license, and I'd like to replace that with registration permit. The terminology there is more applicable to what we're trying to do here, and that's just strictly creating a permitting process so we can document those vehicles, their registrations number, any other nomenclature we need off that, and that's so the clerk's office can have that information on documentation. There are fees built into that. But that's what it's limited to. This has nothing to do with water cab services or any other vendors that the casino may hire to go in. Think about the same thing. They're going to be hiring bus services to come in. We're not charging those buses extra money. So it's the same thing. And that was what the concern was. I just felt that the way I thought the intent was and the way it seemed to come across is that it wasn't about leaving money on the table. It was about grabbing some extra money, and I don't think that's the case. I think a legitimate permit registration process so the clerk's office can document that is more than sufficient. And if the clerk could tell us what those fees are again? I don't recall them off the top.
For a new business, if this, so there's a new business, it's the $500 application fee. We always have application fees. And then the annual renewal fee is $500 for the first vessel, $250 for each vessel thereafter, like we do for our taxi and our livery.
So this just documents the those vessels in operating out of the city. But they're not a license. They're licensed by other entities that are higher up than us. So that's my motion, is to amend the piece to replace where it says license with the word registration permit.
I second that motion, Mr. President.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is going to be
Be a roll call.
Motion, no, this is the amendment.
Oh, just amendment.
This is the amendment.
All in favor?
This is just.
Oh, for the amendment,
For
I'm
the
sorry.
amendment.
To
So,
change it to
Now
registration.
it's been amended, favorable action as amended.
As amended.
And this is for ordainment, because there was not a major change. It's already been posted. Counselor Capone.
Yes.
Counselor DeFlorio. Yes. Counselor DePiero.
Yes.
Counselor Hanlon.
Yes.
Counselor Matusky.
Yes.
Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Napolitano.
Yes.
Counselor Simonelli.
Yes.
President Della Sola.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays. You have so ordained the ordinance.
Clerk, could you read number 19 on the agenda, please?
There's an ordinance offered by Counselor, Mr. President, it's an ordinance offered by Counselor Fred Capone, an ordinance for a dry bulk storage license.
Favorable action.
As amended last week,
Correct. And this is for ordainment.
and I think we should work a little further
Roll call
on the
vote.
prices. They went too high.
Counselor Capone.
Yes.
Counselor DeFlorio.
Yes.
Counselor DePiero.
Yes.
Counselor Hanlon.
No.
Counselor Matusky. Counselor McKinnon.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Counselor Napolitano.
Yes.
And Counselor Simonelli.
Yes.
And President Della Sola.
Yes.
That would be 9 yeas, 1 nay. You have so ordained the ordinance.
Clerk, could you read number 21, please?
Item 21, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Counselor Stephen Simonelli that is under the mayor or someone from his office appear at the next Government Operations Committee meeting to explain why the city took away 19 public spots in the Everett Square parking lot behind the post office for city-owned vehicles.
Councilor Simonelli.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, through you for Councilman Simonelli. Thanks to the city for giving up the parking spaces and removing the signs in the main parking lot in the square, giving it back to the people. I'm sorry.
Just bring it closer to you so they can hear you.
Mr. President, thanks to the city for giving up the parking spots and removing the signs in the main parking lot in the square, giving it back to the people. I'd like to refer this back to sponsor.
Thank you. So, Council, you're pleased with what they did? And send it back to sponsor? Council Capone.
All right, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. I think we had sent communication to the mayor's office saying that we were opposed to city vehicles being parked there. What happened? I missed that. Was there any communication from the mayor?
I don't have a communication from the administration.
Okay. No. What
Yeah, but we
happened
wonder
is-
how it came out of committee.
That came out of committee a while ago, if I have it right. And what happened is the last time it was here, we referred it to the mayor's office, let them know that this body weren't in agreement with 19 vehicles going home.
Right.
Because the additional wear and tear, expense, maintenance, and it would require us to replace those vehicles sooner. And we were looking for a response. So I don't think we got a response.
There's no response.
No response here right
So
now.
I would ask that we re-refer it back to the mayor, ask for a response for our next meeting, in line with what we had done the last meeting.
Second on that? That'll be, correct.
If I,
He had referred it back to sponsor, and
Yeah.
you want to refer it back to the mayor's office.
right.
Sponsor.
The sponsor. Do you want to, Councilor, you want to refer it back to sponsor?
You want to go with,
Right.
We rescind our motion and go with the second motion.
So the motion was to send it back to the mayor's office.
For a
With a
response.
response back to the next meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Clerk, could you read number 23 on the agenda?
Item number 23 is a resolution offered by, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Council Rosie DeFlorio that Planning and Community Development come to the next meeting to explain what information is given to new residents moving into the city.
Councilor Florio.
As we all well know, all these things are on the agenda. What I'm trying to do with this is have community and business development, because I believe they have the money for something like this, and I'm not sure. Put something together, like a little welcoming packet, but also a little book, where it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. We can send it to Everett High School to print it. Let them know who the elected officials are. Let them know City Hall. Let them know the schools. Let them know phone numbers, because as we were saying, on Friday, City Hall's closed. Who do they call? Well, the new people don't know anybody to call. So put the mayor's office, the phone number, elected officials, all their phone number, email addresses, and residence address. Schools, the school department, the different schools we have. How do you register your child to go to school? And inside these packets, there should be a census form, have them fill out the census, and a register of voters form. So those are the questions I have for the business community development, and I request that they come to the next meeting to see if they can put something together like that. So we can, it's not just to welcome the new people, also some of the people that live in the city for years. They don't know who to call.
Maybe have it at
or what
City
to
Hall,
do.
maybe have
So
it
we could have
downstairs.
something at City Hall, but, so for people to pick up, and it'll be an informational purpose for everybody in the city.
Thank you. Councilor Napolitano.
Yeah, I mean, we've had discussions about what happens when we bring guests up here and end of these long-winded discussions. I mean, I would make a motion that this goes to government ops and public service, public safety. It's a public service to be able to have them come up and create this. So my motion is it goes to committee, so this can be discussed without time limits and we can get a full presentation.
Do we have it on that motion? Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that this should belongs here. Everybody should hear it, okay? I never make an argument with anybody, but I've sat here for hours, an hour, listened to one piece on the traffic. I want it here, so information is given to everybody, and everybody hears it, okay? At this point, I don't believe this should go to committee, come back on the floor, and spend 3 hours on it. So my motion is to keep it here. I understand going to committee takes precedent, so take that vote first, but I recommend it stays here.
All right, so Councilor Napolitano has a motion on the floor right now?
Yep. That's all in favor.
All in favor on Councilor Napolitano's motion? All opposed? No. Do a roll call vote, please.
Council Capone. Council DeFlorio.
No.
Council DePiero.
Stays on the floor.
No.
Council Hanlon. Council Matusky.
Yes.
Council McKinnon.
No.
Council McLaughlin. Council Napolitano.
Yes.
Council Simonelli.
No.
And President Della Sola.
No.
3 yeas, 7 nays. The motion is
Yeah, the motion-
now to postpone it to the next meeting to have them come before us.
Councilor,
Correct?
Councilor Florio, you want to hold off to the
Table
next,
action to have it on
next meeting?
next meeting.
Yeah.
And that was second?
All those in
That was
favor?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it for next meeting. Clerk, could you read number 24, please?
Yep. President, item number 24 is a resolution offered by Councilor Anthony DePiero, respectfully requesting a communication from Mr. Kevin O'Donnell on the status of restoring the food bank at the Whittier Drive Housing Complex.
Mr. President, can the clerk please read the communication from Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, you will.
Yes. City Councilor Anthony DePiero. Good evening, Councilor DePiero, and all the elected members of the distinguished council. I am forwarding this communication with respect to item number 24 under new business for this evening's meeting. This item refers to the food bank that had been providing services to the residents at Whittier Drive Housing Complex. As the council was receiving reports of the discontinuation of services, the mayor's office was as well. As a result of these reports, the mayor directed staff to reach out to the participants in order to rectify the issue. As a result, I am happy to report that the issue is resolved, and the food bank will continue providing services beginning in April. In closing, we'd like to thank the council members for their support and attention to this matter. Respectfully, Kevin J. O'Donnell.
I'm happy to hear that. I'd like to thank Mr. O'Donnell for his swift action in helping restore this. As we know, those on fixed income struggle enough as it is.
Correct.
And this food bank immensely helps the residents of Whittier Drive. With that, I'll refer it back to sponsor.
Seconded.
Can I ask when you to the clerk, can I get a copy of that?
Sure.
I know some people that want it.
Sure.
Thank you.
All in favor on that motion? All opposed? The ayes have it. Can you read number 25 on the agenda?
Item number 25, Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilor Anthony DePiero that the administration evaluate the snow emergency tag and tow policy when the weather is not as bad as predicted.
Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a resident here recently talking about this issue, and it's a hard thing to judge whether people make predictions and not as bad as they should have been. All I'm asking is that the administration evaluate this on a case-by-case basis. I know you probably can't refund the towing fees, but at least if it's not as bad as predicted, maybe refund the tickets. With that, I'll make a motion to refer to the administration.
Second.
Refer to who, I'm sorry?
Administration.
For action?
Councilor Florio on that motion? Sorry.
I agree with Council DePiero.
Yeah.
But it is tough.
It is.
Because if you call a snow emergency and it doesn't happen, then, okay. But what if you don't call the snow emergency and it does happen? So, you know what I mean? It's the checks and balances. It's the same thing on street cleaning. A lot of people complain. I moved my car, but my street didn't get cleaned. Or I got a ticket, my street didn't get cleaned. But if the machine breaks the street before, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
So I understand, if it really doesn't happen, you can give a little bit back on the ticket. But at the same time, it's not because we're trying to punish people. It's just a hard call, So I agree with Council DePiero, at least try to give them a little bit back on the ticket. But we can't eliminate it, is what I'm saying. You can't, Mother Nature, you never know. They predict no snow, and all of a sudden you might end up with 3 feet of snow. So, like I said, I agree with giving a little bit back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor? All in favor? All opposed? Back to the mayor's office. Thank you.
Item number 27.
Number
the final
27,
piece.
please.
Mr. President, is a resolution offered by Councilor Richard J. De La Sola. The representative from the mayor's office, Mr. Tony Souza from Planning and Community Development, and a representative from the engineering office appear at the next council meeting to give an update on the progress of Ferry Street construction project.
Can you please, the response that we have from them, please?
Yep. I'm happy to provide an update on the status of Ferry Street reconstruction project. As you know, this project is federally funded through the Mass DOT TIP process and has been progressing through the state and federal design review and permitting process over the past couple of years. The current anticipated funding year is FY 2020, with construction anticipated to start in late calendar year 2020. In late 2018, Mass DOT completed its 25% design review and public hearing process. The city expects to submit 75% designs for review and comment by late spring of 2019, with 100% plans following by the end of this calendar year. Later, during this calendar year, the city will also begin acquiring the necessary easements for construction to take place. The vast majority of these easements are temporary construction easements to allow activities such as concrete form work for sidewalks and driveways. Once construction begins, it is anticipated to occur over 3-year construction seasons.
Thank you. Mayor, from the chair. I know it's starting next year, 2020, but we have concerns if there's no casino going on with the construction on Ferry Street. That will be happening. So I'm trying to see, I don't want to see the impact, but we know we're going to see it anyways. The impact, what's going to happen when Ferry Street's being reconstructed, and if the casino is what they say it's going to be with the parked vehicles, what impact it's going to have, the detours and the night work and all this stuff. So we have to, again, maybe a traffic plan like what they're doing here. Because you think it was bad when the gas company went in there, you're talking curb to curb, ripping up. The Ferry Street would be all dirt at one point. Maybe from Glendale Square to the Parkway, that's going to be dirt curb to curb. So this is going to be interesting, and I think in the future, we have to look at this at the end of this year, into 2020, be prepared for this. Council McKinnon, and then, Council Matusky, and then Council McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with you on this issue. And we, as a city council, have to be very careful when we approve these permits to National Grid and these devices on telephone poles that they tell you it's going to be a small box. You've got to see what they put on Elm Street and on Abbott Ave. It's the size of a refrigerator. The woman called me and said, "What the heck is this?" I mean, come on. So, not only that they have a police detail, a bucket truck, any little, construction project could be technically a serious traffic issue. So we, as a city council, just can't say, "Oh, go right ahead, do what you..." We've issued a lot of licenses in the last year or two. And most of the time it gets done correctly, but sometimes there's no police detail there, and they don't do the right thing with the cones and so forth, and we could have a serious problem. They were in front of Councilman Hanlon's house for 3 months last year. We've got to be very careful, and I'm going to be very careful how I vote on these construction projects in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. President, so is this basically telling us that we'll see no construction on Ferry Street until another year from now? Is that what this letter states?
Looks like the plan will be complete in then 2020.
So how do we move forward, Mr. President? Because I know you've been watching this very closely, as so has Council McKinnon. But from Ferry Street, from Glendale Square to the Malden line, it is like it's like a war zone, to be honest with you. The potholes, the road construction, the road conditions, it's just, and it continuously gets worse. There's no improvement. We're going to tell the people that live there that they're going to deal with it for another year before anything can happen. I think we need to have National Grid come up here and tell us that they're going to overlay the road, or they're going to put down 2 inches of hot top. They're going to do something for the next year to leave it in a better condition than it's in today, because the condition that it's in today is just crazy. And to hear that it's going to be another year from now before any road work gets done, we all know what it's like. We all travel Ferry Street. Specifically, I hear it all the time. I go down to a business down that end of Ferry Street. Every time I walk in the door, the individual asks me, "What's the plan? Where do we go from here?" My customers don't want to come down here anymore. They don't want to travel this side of the Ferry Street because the road condition is so bad and it continuously gets worse. So I want to see what your thought is, Mr. President. It's your
I think the problem is, from the chair, National Grid, they said, was a year ahead of schedule. I do that kind of work. I've never seen anybody do a year ahead of schedule, complete it, the gas. The gas should have came in, and we should have went right to the water, the sewer. You have almost a year and a half break in between, which is nice, but look what happened to the road. And so people don't know, they're doing the water, sewer, electric, everything replaced.
But it's usually, like you said, Mr. President, back to back to back.
Correct.
So one comes out, one goes in, one comes
Correct.
out, and then you're done in 6 months or whatever the time frame is.
I think we have to sit with all utilities who are coming here, and they have to do phases, because you get the Cavarian school coming out, trying to get onto Ferry Street during school time. So I think you could recommend something, but maybe lay it over until...
I think we should lay it over and invite National Grid up to tell us how they're going to leave the road. They told us they would maintain it. The last time
it wouldn't be National Grid. I think National Grid's complete there.
So
I think we have talked
I
about...
thought they were holding responsibility of the road condition.
Correct. If you want it, yes.
I thought they told us that they would come up and they would maintain potholes and so forth on the length of the road until the next phase came in. It might be wrong, but I thought that was...
I'll take your recommendation on having National Grid come up.
So my recommendation is refer this to Public Safety, Public Service, and Government Operations, and invite up the National Grid road construction crew, whoever that supervisor. I don't think it's Dan Cameron.
I'd like to have the contractor up here also, which is Devereaux and the gas company. The contractor.
Yeah, my colleagues have suggestions. I yield the floor to my colleagues, but I think that we're all on the same page.
Council McKinnon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for yielding. If we could have National Grid, the contractor, and also police traffic to see what the plan would be for the next upcoming year, because we're going to run into problems if we don't have a plan.
Correct. And a representative from the mayor's office.
Yes. Whoever you want. And my other question is going to be on the next. There's wording here, approve previous minutes for the meeting prior. Do we have to approve that? Okay.
Okay, so motion right now is to invite National Grid, the contractor, which is Devereaux, the police for traffic, and representative from the mayor's office to, we'll go next, you want to go next, we'll go next meeting.
Sure.
Next public safety meeting, correct.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, before that, I'd just like to make a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes.
Waive the reading.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.